Woohoo!
All right.
What's up, everyone?
Hello.
Wow, were we
Welcome
both
to the
messy on
inaugural. I know, I didn't anticipate spilling all over myself when I dressed up,
Fuck.
but it is what it is. Well, this is generally how it goes, though. Welcome to the Movie Boners Awards.
Hello!
You may notice Dustin has a very fancy banner, which he made himself,
Yep.
and bow tie and the works.
That's right.
And I did not decorate, but I kind of did what I do and make a giant slideshow for this.
Yeah, you got real excited about that slideshow. You and your spreadsheets, man. You and your spreadsheets.
Yep. So before we get into the awards, do what we always do. What beer are you drinking today?
Well, I was completely convinced that I already had a beer that was like on topic and on point. And then when I went to the fridge all confidently to grab it, I was wrong. So it fits the brand that I'm going to be stretching it just a little bit here. So I am drinking Cosmic Cowboy from Family Business Beer Company down here in Texas. My reach for it to be on topic is the tagline for it is bold and a modern classic, because that's like the tagline for every big epic movie that ever comes out. It's a pretty decent beer, actually. Pretty decent beer. What about you, good
Okay,
sir?
good. I have one that I've been saving for a special occasion. I actually got this one from a friend. Shout out to you, Brennan. I helped you move some furniture, and he gave me a very nice beer. I think you will like it, actually. It's from Rogue, who I know you like.
Yeah.
And it's a twist on their regular Dead Guy Ale. It's called Dead and Dead, and it is the Dead Guy Ale, but it's aged in oak Dead Guy whiskey barrel chips.
Oh.
And,
so what you're saying is by the end of the show, you will be feeling quite wonderful.
It's a full pint, 10% alcohol. Yeah, it's going to get crazy. So first thing, before we actually get into the awards, because this is a podcast episode, even though we're recording it live, first live stream. Yeah. I think this will be a fun thing. Hopefully we do more of these in the future. But because it is going to be a podcast, I want to let you know, next episode, we're spoiling a movie from 2013 called Coherence, which I saw not too long ago, loved, forced you to watch it. You got obsessed with it. And it's a very complicated movie that we are going to get very deep into next episode. So make sure you watch Coherence. It's on like Amazon Prime and a bunch of the free things like Tubi and stuff. Yeah. So definitely check it out.
Definitely worth the watch.
Fun. Yeah. Okay. So, are you ready to actually get into the movie?
I'm almost ready. I just realized, man, I'm forgetting something. Oh no. Oh no. I got to complete the ensemble.
God damn it. Okay. I was going to say, so for those of you listening and not watching the stream, which you should, Dustin pulled a dick move and pulled out the belt, which I lost to him in the movie draft recently.
2023, man.
I was going to...
Come on.
It was... Yes, you are the crown champion of 2023. That is true. I was going to say, in the spirit of brotherhood and friendship, it was nice of you to take it down and put up your nice banner instead.
Yeah, well, I didn't want it getting blocked out, so I told you when this arrived in the mail, you would always see it in frame. You know, I don't want you to not be able to see it. So I'm not sure how long I'll hold it on my shoulder, because it kind of, the shirt's a little slippery.
It's very heavy. It's very heavy and legit and huge.
But it's, here it is, 2023. Now it feels right. Now it feels right.
What a dick. Okay. That's how it's going to be, I guess. That's fine. How do I get you out of frame? Okay, so what the thing about Dustin is... I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking around.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the awards. Our very first ever. We have a lot to get through. So there may be some music playing you off from time to time, just so you know. We really wanted to do our first ever awards. I think was it 2 years ago that we did the stunt episode for the Oscars and decided that we were basically done. with the Oscars. Fuck those guys. And we celebrated stunt work in that episode. That was really fun. But I think over the last couple of years, it's just kind of become more and more the case. And so we wanted to create our own award show to celebrate all of the things that we love the most and encourage more of that. And there's not very much negativity. We thought about doing like worst dubs and things like that, but we're trying to keep it positive and highlight what we want more of in movies, I think.
Yeah, very excited.
And I think the nice thing is we also get to like the Oscar. It's a thing where most of the Oscar stuff is like stuff that came out at the end of the year. And there's a lot of good stuff that came out in the beginning of the year that people forget about and stuff like that. So we'll get to do that. We'll get to talk about horror movies, which always get no attention. I think that's a good starting point for us.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. You brought it up that we haven't really been paying attention to the actual Oscar race, as it's kind of known as. I think you gave up on it long before I did. But it's still kind of weird to me because I watched the Oscars and would even watch like the Golden Globes too for years. And then over the last like handful of years, I've just gotten so burned out on it because it's just, I feel like it's kind of lost track of just being entertained, like just letting movies be big pieces of entertainment, right? It has to be a political agenda with every fucking thing they say. So it's like, shut up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird still not watching it and then doing our own version. Very excited because I got to tell you, despite what Rotten Tomatoes wants you to believe, 2023 was very entertaining. We had some super fun, super great films that came out. Did we have some stinkers? Yeah, we had some real pieces of crap come out, but that happens. So, and to each their own, you know. It was entertaining as hell to me. So I'm so stoked to be able to just kind of enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah, I agree for sure. And so I think that'll be fun. We'll get to focus on stunts and practical effects and all the things that we love about movies. And then the other thing that was really cool is we had the idea to reach out to other movie podcasts and other Instagrams that are big movie fans and movie lovers like us, and kind of get their input, got them to be presenters of each of our categories. So we have 21 categories to get through. 21 different people actually took our call and agreed to put in work and help us out with this. And we're hugely grateful for that. And they're hilarious. And it runs the gambit from accounts that are like way bigger than us that we've like looked up to for a long time. And then accounts that are smaller of us that should be a lot bigger. And we've also looked up to them for a long time. And so it's a really cool thing. We're really excited to do it. And I think it adds some variety and style and a little bit of class because a lot of them, they have accents. And so some of them have some Southern drawls. Some of them are from across the pond. And, you know, they're the wankers over there. And some of them are Southern wankers from across the other pond in Australia where they like, it's tomorrow there. And it's also fall instead of spring. I don't think Australia is a real place, but there's a bunch of really cool people who have agreed to do this, and we're very excited to highlight that as well.
Yeah, cheers to all of you.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so moving on because we have a set bedtime we need to get to. Our first category of the year is the most underrated movie of 2023. And I think this was a much broader category than all the others because there was a lot of good stuff, like you said, that didn't quite get the attention it deserved in the whole Barbenheimer chaos. That's part of it. And there's also just a lot of movies that always come out. And so finding the right ones to highlight was tough. Got a good amount of suggestions from Instagram and followers and listeners and all that. And so let's find out who's not presenting this award. It's the great Lisa from Real Movie Lovers podcast. She's great. She is always hilarious and also very, I think, like us, down to earth and not pretentious about anything, likes actual real movies. And one of my favorite things she does is Hot Takes Tuesdays, which is always really fun. So let's hear the presenters from Real Movie Lovers.
Hey guys, Real Movie Lovers podcast here. And each year we come together to celebrate the wonderful world of filmmaking with a grand party, awards, and accolades. We cross our fingers, we say our prayers in hopes that the movie that we absolutely love makes the cut. But alas, too many times our desires and dreams of films that entertained us and imprinted on us don't measure up and go unnoticed. But not this time, not on my watch. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the nominees for the most underrated gems of the year. Skinamarink, that low budget horror film that haunted you for days? Yeah, it's on the list. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Mutant Mayhem, the latest new innovative animation style giving me what I didn't know I wanted. Ice Cube voicing a fly. Dungeons and Dragons, a beloved game correctly adapted to a film? Yes, please. Air, the film that answers all the questions you didn't know you had about Nike Jordans. Rylane, a young, fresh take on the tired tropes of rom-coms that rivals Love Actually and Notting Hill with a meet-cute that actually occurs in a toilet stall? I'm invested. They Clone Tyrone, one of my absolute favorites of the year, and a movie that scratched every itch that I want from a genre. Suspense, comedy, sci-fi, conspiracy theory. And finally, Extraction 2. The hero you could have sworn died in the first movie, returning with an awesome round-up sequel. You just can't keep a good guy down. Now remember, guys, here at the inaugural Movie Boners Awards, we judge things fairly and do not take bribes. By chance, did you guys drop a $20 bill? Thank you, Movie Boners, for this wonderful opportunity. I can't wait to check out the other categories and see who won fairly.
That was amazing. Thank you again.
Thank you.
So yeah, Air, Dungeons and Dragons, Extraction 2. I have to say, I asked to be added last minute because I watched it late and I was like, oh my god, we need this on our over underrated list. And luckily she hadn't recorded yet, so we snuck it in. And then Rylane, Skinamarink, TMNT, and They Clone Tyrone. Is there anything that you want to say before we announce the winner about any of those? Because they can't all win.
They can't all win, which is a shame. If there was one rule I think you and I probably could have really broke was thrown caution completely out the window and just been like, we love all these, they all win. But that's not our MO either. Yeah. So I gotta say, this list right here, although I didn't see every one of them, completely, like, it is how I feel about the year. It was shockingly entertaining. And there's a couple of these movies that I think people had low expectations on and then went and saw it and was like, holy crap, that was incredible. So congrats to all the movies for our nominees. Hell yeah.
All right. And the winner is, or I guess let's just say the boner goes to. This is the only one where we had a little bit of conflict.
Yeah.
Because for all except this one, there's a single winner. But we couldn't quite decide between you and me.
We just
who should
couldn't
win.
do it.
So you chose Air.
Yep.
And I chose Extraction 2. And like I said, I think Extraction 2 was hugely surprising because last year there were 8 different superhero movies that came out. There was a John Wick movie, an Indiana Jones movie, a Fast X movie, all there's like a shitload of stuff that were very action heavy. Mission Impossible.
Yep.
And so I think it got overlooked. But when I saw it, I was like, my God, this movie is intense. It's meaningful and heartfelt, and it moved me in ways I didn't expect from a Chris Hemsworth action movie. So I was hugely appreciative of Extraction 2. Why did you choose Air?
I think Air just ended up being such a great drama that is so much more than just here's the story about Air Jordans, like the creation of the shoe. Getting to see some actual like human emotions tied to getting these shoes off the ground and making them, because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I thought it was just incredible story, incredibly acted. I'm a big fan of the cast, but it's a movie about shoes essentially. So I was kind of like, I don't know. And then by the time I watched it, there's a moment in it that every time I watch it, it just floors me where it's like, you can't help but feel just an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. So I just thought Air was, how do you take a movie about shoes and turn it into something so human and amazing? So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I loved it. And it's also the best sports speech we've had in a really long time. That monologue Matt Damon gives about kind of predicting Jordan's life and hardships and how they are going to build you up and then they're going to tear you down, because that's what people do. And it was really, really intense and good. I definitely agree. Yeah. But not as good as Extraction.
Whoa.
equally good. They both win. Sorry, I was a little for a minute. I was thinking about the belt, and I got
you got a little angry there, man. That was a little much. Come on. Whoa.
Sorry, I'll lock it up. Our next category is the best overall design. So we combined makeup, hair, costumes, set design, props, all the stuff that makes you feel like you're there, basically. Into a single category, because otherwise it would be too much. We already have a lot going on.
We already have a lot.
And it's presented by the great Dan and Manny from the Nostalgia Test podcast. Right. And if you need to get a drink, buckle up, because they have the longest stage time. And I didn't put a time limit on it. So when I put out the request, first of all, I was amazed anybody took our call. But when they did, I was like, it can be as long as you want, as long as it's worth it. And I do think it is worth it for sure. So, and everybody else was pretty short and they made up for it. So yeah, check this out.
Hey everyone, it's the Nostalgia Test podcast. I'm Dan Dissinger in LA. I'm with my co-host, a longtime friend, Manny Coelho in New York. Manny, what's up? How you doing?
What's going on? I'm ready to present. Thank you, Movie Bonus, for having us on. We're ready to present for this category. And we actually have a guest here, our longtime friend, co-host that comes on every once in a while. Guest co-host. This is Steve Herrera, and we're here to present. What are we presenting today, Dan?
Well, we are presenting the award for Best Design, Costumes, Makeup, Props, and Set. And we are looking forward to talking about some of these nominees. And so the nominees are Barbie,
Dungeons and Dragons,
The Creator,
Bo is Afraid,
Oppenheimer,
John Wick 4,
and Killers of the Flower Moon. Now,
did you watch any of these?
I've seen John Wick 4 and Barbie.
Well, the greatest thing is that the Movie Bonus said that our criteria is that we didn't need to watch all.
Because they realized
I've only watched a few of these. I've seen a lot of the previews, and I could guess what would be great for the set design and costumes and stuff. I watched Barbie, and forget about whether you like the movie or not. I thought the design was, it was very nostalgic. It was like,
amazing.
Looked like we were in a Barbie world.
Absolutely.
With Barbie girls. It's fantastic. They were not wrapped in plastic.
Oh my God, Steve, what do you think?
Can I talk now?
Yeah.
Killers has it for me, man. That was
Killers of the Flower Moon. You saw it?
I saw it. I saw all 3+ hours of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to win. That's it's just untouchable. It was so good. I didn't see 4 of the other nominees though, so I can't really talk. But
you didn't watch John Wick 4?
I haven't seen any of the John Wicks, actually.
I'm so disappointed. You got to see John Wick, bro. What is wrong with you?
I haven't seen any of them.
What is wrong with you?
Dude.
I don't know. It's not that I don't want to.
They're all the same. The first two, I think, was. The first two were great.
The thing about John Wick is every movie it ends and starts exactly where it ends.
Yeah,
this guy's
just
having
a continuous movie.
He's having
the most intense. Shoots a bunch of people, right? They kill his dog and he murders them. That's the gist.
Well,
yes,
but he murders them in the way Keanu Reeves murders people. It's amazing.
And there's a lot of grunts and not.
Yeah, I'm not opposed. You know what? I'm gonna do, guys? After we get off, I'm gonna go watch John Wick.
You gotta watch it. Yeah, watch
the first one.
I would say that's. Although I like those movies, I don't, and I like the set design. It's good. I like the way cinematography was in that. But I saw the preview for Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm sure that was done well and good. But looked like kind of cheesy in a way.
I'm not watching
There's
that.
a lot of CGI to that stuff. The same
Yeah.
thing with the creator. It's all CGI. Like the Killers of the Flower Moon and
Yeah,
Oppenheimer.
you weren't
like,
happy
are
about the
the
creator.
two-
I thought they looked nice. This set design, I guess. Yeah, it's not set design. It's
CGI,
just
man.
set
all
digital
CGI.
creation.
I mean, I feel bad because I don't want to watch Oppenheimer. It just seems too long.
Don't watch
I
Oppenheimer.
feel like you can
It
go
was
to
like watching a
thrift shop.
textbook.
Yeah.
I went to the theater. I went to the IMAX and saw fucking Oppenheimer because
Why?
I wanted to go see a giant bomb and everything, and I was all excited. But it's Christopher Nolan, so the music in the background is like Batman, like
Yeah.
the whole time, and they're literally having a fucking conversation. Okay, and I'm in front of the speaker. My eardrums are just bleeding. I'm like, this is the worst fucking movie experience I've ever had.
The way
Really?
you got to just watch Oppenheimer at
Whoa.
home, probably. Like
People
at your
loved
house.
it.
Watch it at home
Watch Barbie.
comfortably so you can pause it, so you can turn it off and not watch the rest of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
After they test the
Turn it
bomb,
off.
It's a hot
movie's
take right
over.
here.
Watch John Wick
Not
4.
good. I'm sorry. If you're into the history of it, then you'll love it. But if you're not, it's not.
So what do
good
you think about the set design? I thought it would be like watching the preview. I was like, you could just go to like a thrift shop and set design.
I think they did well with that. I think it's
Yeah.
between that and the Killers of the Flower Moon. I think are the two contenders.
I mean, I've only
I don't
seen
know. I gotta give it
Barbie
to Barbie.
and
'cause,
John
like-
Wick 4, and I'm going Barbie.
Yeah, I'm going Barbie.
Wait, who's picking the winner? Anyways, at the
Not us.
boner
Not
hands?
us. Yeah.
No.
The boners?
We're just wasting everyone's time right now. Everyone,
Yeah.
follow the Nostalgia Test at the Nostalgia Test on TikTok
Yeah,
and
where we-
Instagram. And if you like this banter, you'll love the craziness that happens.
Yeah, we put our
podcast. But
pop culture to
definitely
the
Barbie.
test, like, and sometimes we even do nostalgia now. It's like
Barbie's
movie,
definitely would stay
music.
nostalgia 100%. The Barbie movie is forever. I love that movie. The Ken
I think-
song is amazing.
I think John Wick would still pass the test because it's a cheesy action film.
It's great.
Not cheesy. It's just action. So like
it's
you know,
amazing.
you're like
Like
last
John Wick,
action.
they're gonna
hero
keep
film.
going. Even if it's not Keanu, like they'll still
I've
continue.
watched
Yeah.
John Wick 1 over and over, but like I thought John Wick 3 was a little meh.
John Wick 4 is long. So it was
Yeah,
great.
and he falls down the steps
All right.
for like
Yeah.
hours.
Okay. Now,
Can we quit with the long ass movies, please?
Yeah,
I'm down
I need
with
a
that.
90-minute movie. I want
90
a
minutes.
90.
In and out, boom. That's all.
I want a 90-minute movie, beginning, middle, end.
Thank
Give me
you.
a great plot. Finish it off. Don't give me sequels. I don't need
Yeah.
the sequel. Just
No.
give me a 90-minute movie that's great. I
Thank
don't
you.
need a 3-hour movie.
Movie
I'll binge
boners.
episodes for 3 hours, but that's because they're like
yeah.
at 30-minute clips.
I think next time you do this award, movie boners, let's put a category on for that year, best 90-minute film. And probably be
Yes.
like 3 nominees.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, everyone is just like, let's make 3-hour movies. No one has the time for that.
No one has-
No one.
And
And if
truthfully,
you're
like,
trying to make it like nowadays, everybody's watching movies at home. So like you're distracted a lot. Also, if they're gonna continue these 3 hours, bring back the intermission. Bring
Bro,
it back.
exactly. That's what.
Bring
that's
it back. Add alcohol to movie theaters all over the country, not
Yeah.
just in certain states that allow it.
Not
It
just
has to
any
happen.
alcohol.
I will say this about.
Mythology Brewing.
Yeah,
I will say this.
Thank you,
When I
Steve.
saw Barbie,
I
saw-
appreciate it. If you're looking for craft beer, you should go to Lethargy Brewing, Farmingdale, New York, 211A Main Street.
Make a 3-hour movie feel like 3 minutes.
Let's just before we leave, let's just say the nominees again because this is Nostalgia Test Podcast Classic Chaos.
The nominees are Killer of the Flower Moon,
John Wick 4,
Oppenheimer,
Bo is Afraid,
The Creator,
Dungeons and Dragons.
and my upfront runner, Barbie.
There you go, everyone. Enjoy the awards, movie boners. Shout out to you. Thanks again for this opportunity.
Let's
Cut
pose
this
it
up
right.
into a million pieces. We love you.
Good luck.
Those guys are awesome.
yeah. Manny does call out Mythology Brewery. I have not hit him up to be his friend and ask for beer yet, but maybe because we put his ad in our award show, he will send us some beer at some point. Their guys are hilarious. I love those guys. So best design. I think everything they said was right. They pretty much covered it. Also, movies are getting kind of long, so they're not wrong.
It's true. 3-hour movies. I am not opposed to it. I like long movies, but I do like the idea of bringing the intermission back. I think that's a good idea because I get real fucking tired of having people get up to go pee and they're walking in front of me. It'd be great if the movie had that intermission for 10 minutes. Go relieve your bladder, smoke your cigarettes, come back, shut up, finish the movie. I'm for the intermission.
something they can plan around would be good.
Yeah.
And then if you have a weak bladder, just sit on the end. Like the only
Right.
person. I did think it was hilarious that they complained about long movies and then sent me a 9-minute clip.
Right. I started thinking I'm digging the irony here, guys. Digging the irony.
I cut it down as much as possible, but it was still long. So the best winner, or the winner for the overall design, we decided Barbie took that for us.
It had to be Barbie.
It's the thing that everybody liked about it. Like, regardless of whether you liked it or not, or thought it was the best movie ever, or just kind of okay, or overhyped, or whatever, everybody agreed the design was on point.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about it pretty hard. I was like, is it harder to make a movie where you have something very specific that already exists in the real world and try to incorporate that, basically look at this and recreate it in a way that it feels accurate? Is that more or less hard than creating something new from scratch, from like a new idea, like the creator or something? It's like you don't really have anything for context. And so I think because you don't have anything for context, people don't notice if anything's missing.
Yeah.
Like, this just kind of is what it is. Whereas if you have something like Barbie, if you don't have all of the stuff that you're not even paying attention to, right, it's not going to feel real.
And, I had to side with Barbie because it's exactly what the guys said. It felt instantly just like, holy crap, that looks exactly like the Barbie toys you'd see in the aisles of the store, or when you go to a friend's house, their sister would have all of her Barbie shit everywhere. It felt like this weird plastic Barbie world that was real. So, and we talked about it when the movie, before it came out. The thing that really sold it to me, which shouldn't be a shock to you, Jake, was the sequence of going from the Barbie world into the real world. That sequence, just designing that old school style of movie magic, that was what sold it to me. It's like,
like the turning backdrop, and just sitting on the different. Yeah, it's very practical, very incredible. I loved seeing the behind the scene footage of that, for sure.
So congratulations, Barbie, and thank you, Nostalgia guys. You guys are fucking hilarious. Goddamn.
Yeah, unfortunately, none of the Barbie crew is available to present, so we will accept the boner on their behalf, I think. All right, next category, the most improved from low expectations category. And I think that there were a lot of movies that we saw were coming out this year, particularly for the draft, which you pointed out you won. But they were like, yeah, that's not going to be good. That's going to suck. That's going to be garbage, whatever. There were things that definitely exceeded our expectations and were not as terrible as we thought, or ended up being actually good.
Yeah.
And that was a huge breath of fresh air. And so we wanted to highlight those for sure. And to do that, we got our good friend Liz. You may recognize her from our guest spot on the Beat Critics podcast. She is doing her own movie reviews, and so let's see what the nominees are there.
Hello, fellow movie lovers. Welcome to the most important part of this show, the most improved from low expectations category. And that's not just because I'm the host of this section. Exceeding and or obliterating expectations is what cinema is all about. We all just want to be entertained, right? Every time a new movie is announced, we rush to analyze every little bit of information that we have to decide if we're going to go see this movie and if it's going to be any good. Now, whether or not that's a good thing is still up for debate. Our intuition is usually right, though. However we think we're going to feel is probably how we're going to feel. But every year, without fail, there are a few little surprises. Movies that we absolutely loved that we thought maybe we wouldn't. From the rubble of low expectations emerges some of the general public's favorite movies. Iconic movies like The Thing, Fight Club, The Big Lebowski, and Wet Hot American Summer all fall into this category. It's hard to imagine that these didn't perform well in the box office, but it happened, and now they're household names. 2023 had its fair share of underdog films, and we're going to acknowledge and celebrate a few of them today. But before I announce the nominees, I wanted to take a quick second, a moment of silence for one of my personal choices that didn't make it onto this list. Gran Turismo. Okay, I've kept you waiting long enough. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. In no particular order, the nominees for most improved from low expectations. Ooh, a good one. Thanksgiving. Another good one. Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. They just keep getting better. Barbie. Saw X. Haven't seen it, but heard good things. The Little Mermaid. It's a classic. Godzilla -1. All right, Jake and Dustin, tell the people who your winner is.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Liz.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And she's primarily the reason that we realized that we should probably dress up for this, because I got her submission and I was like, oh shit. But first of all, I was like, who are you wearing? And then second of all, I was like, fuck,
Better
we gotta
dress
dress up.
Shit.
So thank you for reminding us about that as well.
I still can't believe that 2023 brought on something for me that I don't think either one of us ever expected me to do. And that was not only give props to, but actually enjoy an original Eli Roth horror film. So I'm still kind of dumbfounded that happened. But Thanksgiving was so fucking entertaining. Yeah.
It really was. It was really, really darn fun, I think. I definitely agree with you there. And I kind of think, even though I'm a big Saw franchise fan, I've been kind of out in the cold as far as being allowed to enjoy that publicly. So it was very nice to have everybody pretty much agree, oh, this is a really good Saw movie. And that was really fun.
Yeah.
So I think Saw was great. There's a lot of great ones. Godzilla -1 is one that I didn't even know was coming out until like the week it was releasing.
Right.
And I was like, and then the American Monarch show had just come out, and I was like, what is happening with the whole Godzilla thing? I don't really understand. And then I learned that Japan made a new Godzilla movie, like a legit Godzilla movie. I think of the Godzilla movies as like, if they're not Japanese, they are not legit kind of thing. And so to not only find out that they're making a new one, but also pretty much every historical one I've seen has been pretty cheesy and kind of fun and silly and enjoyable monster movies. But this one is like half monster movie, half very serious war epic with very intense personal and human stories. And so that was mind-blowingly good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the one we had to go with for the winner of this category was the Great Dungeons and Dragons, because there have been so many shit Dungeons and Dragons movies, and I don't know why it took them so long to make a good one, but it was legitimately great. And definitely, I enjoyed it because I think it was accessible to people that are not tabletop role-playing fans, but also if you like D&D, I felt like I could see the character sheets of the characters on screen, like this person's intelligence score, this person's charisma score. As they're running away, they're rolling agility and they missed it or whatever. Like I felt like I was watching an actual D&D movie, and it was really, really fun. And finally got to see an owlbear on screen. So I think that was the fact that it was actually really, really great. And I hope that is successful enough, even on streaming or whatever, that they make another one. That's why I chose that one.
Yeah, it was the one I think it was one that I kind of expected I would probably be able to be entertained by. I would at least walk out of it saying, "Oh, it was fun. It was cool. It wasn't that bad." But it's a legit movie. Like so entertaining, so much fun. It's got actual heart to the story that you don't exactly expect. But like you said, I'm not a D&D player, but watching this movie, I felt like I didn't have to be. I understood the characters. I understood the story. I understood the world. And the mixture of CGI with the practical effects was so much fun. Some of the super cheesy costumes and creatures that they made, just that kind of stuff is always going to resonate with me. So D&D was just, it was so much better than it needed to be. And I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, that's a good point. You would think, like, I think maybe even before this year, movies with CGI, you're like, it's at least passable. But there were so many movies last year where the CGI was terrible.
So bad.
And like huge budget movies. And so for good CGI, good practical effects, good everything, I felt like it fit.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Congrats, D&D. Congrats.
All right. Next category the best cinematography. And this is a category obviously about the photography, but presented by the great Kyle from I Know Movies and You Don't podcast, who is full of hyperbole and hubris. Let's hear what he has to say.
Well, hello, all you fellow boners, bonerillos, bonerinos, bonerito, boneruses, bonerians. I don't know. My name is Kyle Bruehl. I am the host of a podcast called I Know Movies and You Don't. That's facetious. Please calm down. And I'm here to present the category of best cinematography. And what is cinematography? I mean, I guess I could go to definition, but it's association with the idea, techniques, the composition of a scene, the framing of a scene, but really it includes everything that goes into the process of the camera, the lighting, whether it's golden hour beauty or the absolute darkness and blackness of the removal of light, lenses, filters, film stock, all of those choices have something to do with the image and the camera angle movements, and even the integration of special effects and how they can be absorbed within the lens, and it's in the process of capturing an image. And so there are some nominees, and they all run the gamut and choices of all of those experiences. And so let me introduce you to the Movie Boners Awards of the Best Cinematography Award. We have Greg Fraser and Oren Sofer's blend of Asian and futurist aesthetic in The Creator. We have Hoyt van Hoytema and his abstract and epic lens for the biopic Oppenheimer. We have Dan Lauson's slick, action-packed cinematography for John Wick Chapter 4. We have Kozo Shibasaki capturing the independently produced yet grand in scale epic actioner with Godzilla -1. Pedro Lucu for the bleak yet beautiful cinematography that captured the harrowing experience of Society of the Snow. One of my favorites, the colonial pseudo-comedy Godland with Maria van Holtzwolf, and the art of minimalism, suggestion, and the horrors on the surface and in the background with Lukasz Zal is shooting The Zone of Interest.
So there we go. Yeah, lots of great, I think, beautiful movies. Society of the Snow was one that I didn't quite expect to be as good as it was, for sure, because it was intense and also very visually stunning. And so I highly recommend that. And then Godland is another one, I guess 2 different foreign language ones on there. Godland, I think most people forgot because it came out at the very beginning of the year, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think in some places it even came out last year, but we counted it, and very inspired by early 1800s or 1900s photographs that they found in, I think it was Denmark or something. And it's a whole thing is kind of shot like that. So really, really, really good. And then, The Creator I especially liked because it was kind of marketed as a movie that was all entirely filmed on this consumer level, prosumer level Sony camera that aspiring filmmakers can rent for like $100 a day. Like, it's a really cheap, really normal camera, but they filmed the whole movie on that. And so to be able to see these incredible visuals translate and be like, you could make that if you had the same color correction and editing and special effects and performances and all of that other stuff. But it's possible. You can get really, really good stuff out of really cheap hardware. I thought that was very cool and inspiring, and that it became part of the marketing. I thought that was cool. What did you think of that?
Man, this was a tough category for me to kind of like figure out which one I felt deserved it. Of course, I felt that kind of struggle until I saw one specific one, and then I was like, oh no, this one is taking all of this for me. Great cinematography this year. I think that was one of the things that just was one of my favorite things of the whole year. Was so many movies came out where there were certain shots or just sequences where it was like the whole screen was filled with something that had your attention. It wasn't It wasn't just like, oh, that kind of looks cool. It was grand, and even with some of the most subtle scenes, it was just brilliant this year. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if Oppenheimer won a bunch of
Oh, yeah.
cinematography awards or whatever. I think it's particularly the fact that if you see how gigantic an IMAX camera is, and the like places they put it and how close they get it to Cillian Murphy's face and all this stuff, it's like to get the shots you got with those gigantic freaking cameras, you kind of deserve it at that point.
Yeah. And nothing against the ones that don't win, but this one was just unreal. So
we actually ended up selecting The Zone of Interest, which was very unique, I think, in its style, particularly the way that it was filmed with multiple cameras set up and kind of often 360 degrees with up to 10 different cameras shooting the same scene, let the actors kind of do their own thing, and then they just digitally removed cameras in the background, or film Big Brother style where they just put holes in the walls of the house and let the people live out their life on screen. Very effective and very well done.
And every panning shot of their yard with Auschwitz in the background is just, man.
It does a really good job of giving you the meaning and the context without beating you over the head with it and like showing you directly. It's kind of like a less is more.
This movie, I posted about it after watching of just you and I talk about less is more can typically and most often is more effective, especially when it comes to darker themes and horrific themes. The less you show, the more effective it'll be. I think Zone of Interest is the perfect example of that. I think it's possibly the most effective movie about the Holocaust that I've seen since Schindler's List. This movie really hit hard.
Yeah. And we don't have a category about sound design or sound editing or anything like that, but this particularly did a phenomenal job and is very worthwhile to watch with good sound, I think. And I'm also a fan of when other film stocks or light spectrums are used, and I haven't seen a movie incorporate infrared filmography since like Sakari.
Right.
It's not really good infrared scene, and this does a really, really good scenes in that for sure.
Yeah. So, congrats, Zone of Interest.
Sorry, Lucas Dahl, you're not present to accept your award, but we'll accept it on your back. I guess I didn't mention at the front. If anybody was not aware or followed the whole voting on categories thing that we did on Instagram, half of these are serious, half of these are very silly, and this may be the silliest one. The most awkward sex scene in a movie, which initially I was like, oh, this will be a fun, silly one. I just put Oppenheimer down because I thought it was kind of funny. And then watched more and more movies where there were very ridiculous sex scenes in them. And it was a strong year for awkward sex scenes.
It was a very strong year for that. Yeah.
So to present the nominees, we have Mr. Movie Maniac on Instagram. Check him out. And he has, I think, very colorful descriptions of the things that happened this year.
Hello and welcome. I'm Mr. Movie Maniac, and I have the absolute pleasure to present the next and most anticipated category in the inaugural Movie Bonus Awards. Most awkward sex scene. Before we get onto our nominees, let's take a short walk down Pornhub Lane. A great sex scene needs to have chemistry. It's got to be steamy, raunchy, and if we're lucky, plenty of skin. Now, our nominees are anything but, because they're awkward. You have awkward, like sitting through a sex scene with your parents, whilst trying to hide your boner underneath your pillow, and then you have fucking awkward. With that in mind, let's list our nominees. Our first nominee is one of 2023's biggest movies, Oppenheimer, the Destroyer of Worlds scene. Boy, this shit was controversial on two fronts. The guy who spearheaded the nuke having a good fuck, and the fact Florence Pugh had to be covered up in countries such as Saudi Arabia. Nolan's first ever sex scene, and what can I say, it's double entendre in the purest form. Good old Robert was indeed doing some destroying. No, shit. Our next nominee is Ridley Scott's Napoleon, the jackhammer scene. This short bastard was going so hard and fast it would make James Dean blush. I probably wouldn't Google that at work. Our next nomination, featuring Gwen Stacy and the Hulk, is Poor Things, grooming a baby train scene. Fuck, talk about disturbing. Our next nominee is Saltburn, the cold dead wiener scene. Oh, bountiful penis, as Rod and Todd would pray like in the Simpsons movie. Next up is one of 2023's biggest comedies, No Hard Feelings, the hookup scene. I mean, it's Jennifer Lawrence, need I say more? And our final nominee is Pearl, screwing a scarecrow scene. I mean, who doesn't love dry humping a scarecrow, right? Oh shit, wait, you're telling me that's not a thing?
So there you have it. Our terribly unsexy nominees. And yeah, I don't even know what to say about all of them.
It was so awkward for every one of those movies because the sex scenes that are nominated were so abrupt and so you just there was no preparation for it. There really wasn't.
No, there wasn't. I think at least in No Hard Feelings, it's supposed to be awkward because he's like a virgin and it's his first time, and it's a comedy. Like they play up the comedy for sure. But like, going into Oppenheimer, I knew very little about it. I knew he developed the bomb. I knew he had the interview where he said the famous line, "I am death, the destroyer of worlds." I didn't expect it to show up in the movie at the point where he's taking a break during sex. And so for not only for it to be Christopher Nolan's first sex scene that he's ever done, which was pretty entertaining, but also for that line to come up, I was like, what? No, what? I was very thrown off. That was weird.
Yeah. And for me, you know, the jackhammer scene in Napoleon, I know I brought it up on the show. It just like, it's a hard cut to just rigorous jackhammering. And it was so awkward because the theater was full. And it was like, it's still going. It's still going. And then the same thing with like Poor Things. There was a lot of people in the theater. I think what made that, I mean, so many things about that was awkward, but sitting next to me was this guy who was watching the movie with his mom. And
oh no.
And that movie is 2 hours, I think a little over 2 hours. And the majority of it is like watching a Skinemax movie when that was a thing. So
yeah,
gross and awkward for sure.
Yeah, I think especially if you watch them. Somebody on Instagram, when I asked like for who would you nominate, there was a lot of write-in campaigns for people to suggest certain scenes or certain movies that they felt like should win, and then we kind of whittled those down to our final nominees. And somebody for those most awkward sex scene, they just said all of them, and I was like, yeah, you're not wrong. Like we talked about it in the nudity episode, like I think it was last episode. Yeah, there's a lot of awkwardness in nudity and sex scenes, so you're not wrong.
Yeah,
not wrong at all.
Ugh.
But I think for this year, for this time, we chose for our winner of the most awkward sex scene, Poor Things, because particularly, you've brought it up before. Fuck Poor Things. Poor Things sucks.
Yep.
Also, it's impossible to get away from the context. At least for me, I think there are people that love Poor Things, and if they love Poor Things, I'd be interested in hearing why. I assume it's because you were caught up in the visuals and the style and everything, and it's very stylized, very interesting looking. But for me, and I think for you as well, if you're watching the movie, the entire premise of the movie is that the world is black and white until this woman in woman's body has sex, and then it becomes colorful, and that's supposed to be very inspiring. It's not inspiring, at least in reality, in the actual premise of the story, because the entire point of the movie is you made a movie focusing on a dead woman who is reanimated with the brain of her unborn infant child. And so now she is functionally, mentally inhibited because she is a child in a woman's body. And to me, it's very interesting that this movie has been so big post Me Too and all of that stuff, because it's essentially saying, hey, if she looks like a woman, even if she has the brain of a child, it's totally okay to have sex with her.
The whole
and encouraging it, basically.
It's taking advantage. It's a gross movie. I know I messaged you about when we were picking the winners, and I told you, like, I feel like I have to put an asterisk or something with this. Fuck this movie. I don't want it to have any awards, good or bad, but at least we're going to give it some bad press because it kind of deserves that. So here we are.
A very small amount of bad press.
Yeah. But bad press, indeed.
I don't think we'll make a dent.
No, probably not. But fuck you, poor things. All right.
Moving on. The best supporting acting category.
Man, this was a big one.
Yeah, it was a big one, and leading acting was big as well. I think our leading acting list is actually a little bit too large, but there are a lot of things I think we could do better next year. Particularly watch all of the movies early on in the year.
That's kind of a good idea instead of trying to pile them all in.
Crammed them all at the very last couple of weeks, and it has been rough. So yeah, best supporting acting performance, and it is presented by Lee from the Lights Camera Rant podcast, and he's really great. So let's check that out.
Hi everyone, Mr. Rant here from the Lights Camera Rant podcast, and I would like to say thank you very much to the Movie Boner Boys for giving me the opportunity to present the best supporting actor. Now, these actors have embraced playing second fiddle to their main co-stars, but we're going to highlight them right now. So your nominees are Donnie Yen for John Wick 4, Manami Humby from Godzilla -1, Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer, Michelle Rodriguez for Dungeons & Dragons, Davin Joy Reno for The Handovers, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Charles Melton for May of December, and Glenn Howerton for Blackberry. Now, personally, I would want the award to go to RDJ for his outstanding performance in Oppenheimer. Here is a man who has constantly almost reinvented himself and always known the mission in hand when the role comes up. We're just not going to mention Dr. Dolittle because that was pretty bad. But everything else he's done has been really good to watch, especially Oppenheimer. Now, Oppenheimer is a movie that if you haven't seen, you must watch it. It is probably one of the best movies of the past 10 years. Now, it's saying that if we take Oppenheimer out of the picture, my top pick is Donnie Yen from John Wick 4. John Wick 4 was a fantastic send-off for Keanu Reeves' iconic role, and Donnie Yen played a fantastic antagonist in this particular movie and conveyed it so well, and the action was just beautiful. But those are my two picks, so let's find out who wins.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Donnie Yen was so strong for me. Not only as a villain, he's a very strong and formidable villain, but also he brought so much of a human element to it. He was very close to winning this for me as well.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked when his name popped up, just because it was one that I for some reason my brain was just like, no, not Donnie Yen, even though he's like a central character. He's a pretty important, vital part of chapter 4. So when he said it, I had that moment where it was like, oh crap, how'd I forget about that dude? Like, oh crap, now we're really thinking.
Yeah. And he's a huge kung fu movie. Just finally porting him into this incredible action franchise was a big deal for sure.
It was. And I've seen there are only 2 on this list that I did not get around to watching. I'm kind of bummed that I didn't get to them, but there was one, well, obviously more than one, but there was definitely one that I pulled for pretty no, this is going to be the one for me. And when you ended up yep, that was a strong reaction for me, Jake. It was a very yes.
That's good.
Right.
Yeah, I think the one that most people would be surprised is on this list is Michelle Rodriguez in Dungeons and Dragons. That's particularly because I have not liked her in pretty much anything I've ever seen her in. And I actually really liked her and liked her character in Dungeons and Dragons. So she stood out above the rest for me. Not anything that anybody would say is like a significantly groundbreaking role or anything like that. But for me personally, I thought she was different, and I saw the character instead of seeing her, which was really, really good.
Yeah.
I imagine you're talking about Glenn Howerton and Blackberry and Charles Melton in May December as the ones you didn't see. I put a bunch of May December stuff on our list after seeing it because it was incredible. It kind of was very surprisingly good to me. And he particularly, I think, was the standout as a guy that married a woman who was his like teacher. He was a kid. He had an affair with his teacher when he was a kid in high school. And then they ended up getting married, have kids, have a whole life, seem very happy. But how he kind of deals with kind of what that means and what that meant and retelling a story and working through some stuff. I haven't really seen him be great in much. I don't know if I've even seen him in much, but he stood out as incredible in that movie. And then Glenn Howerton, actually seeing him, I've only known him from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and seeing him in Blackberry. He was really, really good as well. So yeah, huge, wonderful list. Several Oscar nominees on there, of course, as well.
Yeah.
But for us, the one that we aligned on the most happened to be Minami Hibabi. I hope I said that right. Pretty close. From Godzilla -1.
Yeah, she is incredible from the first scene she pops up. And her whole role in this movie is just, man, she's powerful in this movie. She's absolutely powerful. When I saw this in the theater, I was just, this was a movie that I went into it expecting to enjoy it. It's a Godzilla movie. I grew up with, OG Gojira, and it's one of my all-time favorite monster movies, period. And to watch this one, and then all of a sudden this whole human story, which is always the biggest complaint about monster movies, is the human element that gets introduced, because it's always, oh, this is taken away from the monsters, where none of us are invested in these people. Fully invested in this one, completely unapologetically fully invested. So I was so excited when I saw you side with it and was like, yes, this is the victory. Yes.
Yeah, it absolutely is incredible. She is particularly great, but the whole cast is great. And I love seeing the dynamic of them kind of thrown together. And I was immediately invested in the human element of the story, from him being a kamikaze pilot and needing to go home, and just the instant disgrace that came with that of, you should not be alive. You're a kamikaze pilot. You're a total failure. And then her kind of them joining forces and trying to raise a baby in the middle of this war, in the middle of this monster thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful, incredible movie. I think overall the best movies of the year was Godzilla -1, Oppenheimer, and the Iron Claw for me. Like, they were just hugely perfect movies.
Yeah. Just shouldn't have been that good, and then just blows everything out of the water. So congrats, Minami. Yeah. I'm not even going to attempt your last name because I'm horrible with names, but
congratulations. We will send you your boner in the mail.
Oh, that sounds so bad.
I do want to. It does sound bad. I've been so used. We've done this show for 4 years, and I've been so used to saying movie boners and having a movie boners account and all of this stuff. But to hear all of our different presenters say movie boners over and over, it was very entertaining. So I appreciate that, if nothing else.
Loving it.
It's the funniest thing to me. I need to see the black and white version. Just side note.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the black and white version yet, but I'm excited to do that at some point.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so off the tails of supporting actor, we have leading acting performance. And you may have noticed we combined male and female because why not? It's not like they're weightlifters. So women and men can act just as good as each other. So best leading acting performance. is presented by the Tank from the Truth Tank podcast, who's generally much more of a conspiracy-minded podcast, which I enjoy. And he's been a huge supporter of us. He's always constantly liking things and sharing things of ours. Huge supporter. But he also has done a lot lately, at least, of movie-related podcast shows. So I would say check him out for sure. And let's hear those nominees.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Tank. I am the host of the Truth Tank podcast, and I am presenting the award for Best Leading Acting Performance. It's a pretty stacked category. There is a lot of talent and some outstanding performances by all of the nominees. It will be no easy task to try and determine a winner. However, only one can prevail and take home tonight's award. The nominees for Best Leading Acting Performance are Zac Efron, The Iron Claw; Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, not to be confused with Cillian or Cillian Murphy, as I have referred to him numerous times before. I looked a clip of him up on YouTube saying his name, and it is pronounced Cillian, so I've been saying it wrong for all these years.
Same.
Nicolas Cage, Dream Scenario; Matt Damon, Air. I have more than a few pairs of Nikes, so how can I not like a movie about the development of the Jordan 1? Greta Lee, Past Lives. The next nominee I'm not even going to try to pronounce by myself.
Runosuke Kamaki.
Godzilla, -1.
Flawless.
Sophie Wilde, Talk to Me. A shout out to the directors, the Philippou brothers. They're a couple of homegrown heroes from my neck of the woods. Keep crushing it and keep making movies. Julianne Moore, May December. And last but certainly not least, Natalie Portman, May December. And may the best performance win. Deep down, I'm secretly hoping Cillian Murphy wins. His performance was outstanding as Oppenheimer. He's definitely an underrated leading man in today's Hollywood. He goes above and beyond and definitely takes his acting chops to a new level, as do all of the nominees. But deep down, I'm secretly hoping Cilly wins. Fingers and toes crossed for him. And may the best performance win.
Fingers and toes. That's how you know it's sincere. So those are the nominees. Although, since then, we finally got around to watching The Holdovers and had to write in Paul Giamatti. Mostly because it's impressive. He's able to hold his eyes in two separate directions the whole movie. It's very impressive if you haven't seen it.
He did that as it was supposed to just be a gag for, I forget the dude's name that plays the kid. It was supposed to just be a gag for that, but they stuck with it. Yeah, Paul Giamatti was amazing in The Holdovers. That movie is pretty awesome. Right up my alley. I know I texted you right after I watched it and told you that, like, this is 100% my kind of flick. But, man, this was another tough one to pick between. Yeah, they're so good. Everyone on this is so good.
They are so good. I think I won't be mad at all if Cillian wins everything because he is incredible in Oppenheimer, of course. And really I've been a fan for a long time, but to see him actually lead a Nolan flick, that was incredible. And then Sophia Wilde in particular from Talk to Me as a debut performance, at least for me. I haven't seen her in anything before. She was very impressive, I thought, in particular. And Nick Cage is always great, but I think he's kind of he's in like a Renaissance era ever since Mandy came out. Everything he does is really, really strong these days.
Yeah.
Dream Scenario no different.
I loved Dream Scenario, and I loved him in that movie. I think that's probably one of his best, if not definitely his best performance in a very long time. So that was so cool to see him kind of take a quieter kind of role, but make it him. So awesome performance. But I know there was one that took both of us. I think it took a lot of people off guard, and it's a shame that the so-called pros completely snubbed and just blatantly ignored him. I was not shocked when you pushed for this, and I can't argue this one. This was incredible to watch. So
yeah, for me, there's one performance on that list that is as good of an acting performance as everybody else. But then on the next level, there was all of the preparation physically, the jackedness, whether you use enhancements or not to get jacked super fast. It is really hard work to do. And then also learning all of the moves and all of the techniques and all of the stuff that you have to be able to do, not only to look good on camera, but also safely as you're crashing into other people. Zac Efron in The Iron Claw was just every single thing, physically, emotionally. I was invested on every level.
Yeah, I was. He's always been kind of jacked in general. Obviously, he goes to a whole different level.
Yeah.
This movie.
Yeah. Would you look at like older Zac Efron when you thought he was jacked and you're like, no, you're just kind of shredded. But now he's like,
yeah, it's like, holy crap. But what really got me was the emotional side. He threw down some acting chops that I don't think anyone's actually given him an opportunity to showcase. And for him to have center stage to showcase and kind of prove like, no, folks, I am a leading guy. I am, I've got what it takes. Like, this was really cool. And really shocking to watch. It's kind of crazy to know he came from like Disney Channel happy-go-lucky crap to like, I just want to see him in more stuff. I think he's absolutely awesome to watch, and especially in The Iron Claw. So
yeah, he is absolutely incredible. So that is definitely, I think, for all those reasons, the best acting performance of the year.
Yeah.
All right. Best villain of the year. So less to do with the actual actor themselves and more to do with the character and writing of it. And to present this, we have Steve from the Culture Couch podcast, mostly an Instagram account, but he's getting his podcast up and running. We've collaborated a bunch of times on Instagram, always fun. And he's also the nicest guy ever. Even though we've collaborated on like 100 different things, every time we share something that he tagged us in, he always says thank you. So super nice guy.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. This is Steve from the Culture Couch. Thanks to the boys at Movie Bonus for letting me host one of the awards. Bit gutted I didn't get the best sex scene, but there you go. I went for the second best, which is best villain. Villains can arguably make or break a film. Just ask the MCU. Point proven. Anyway, let's move on to the nominees. So we have The Parents from the Iron Claw. Film only just released recently in the UK, but got to say, if you haven't seen it, get to it. Fantastic film. Brilliant performances by both parents. I particularly hated the mother. Just an absolute bitch. Second up, we have John Kramer, a.k.a. Jigsaw from Saw X. I'd say he was more of a good guy in this one. We still kill people, but that walking off into sunset was just bizarre. But there you go. Louis Strauss from Oppenheimer is next up, a.k.a. Robert Downey Jr. Great performance. Just going to be a bit controversial here. Oppenheimer was a bit boring, maybe. Ooh. Great film, just boring.
Oh.
Hot take.
And the next one, who should win the Best Actor category, and it's absolutely gutting that he's included in Best Villain, is Ken from Barbie. Played effortlessly perfect by Ryan Gosling. He just wanted Barbie's love, damn it. He's not a villain. Just wanted love. And then we have, from a film I've not seen, by the way, William King Hale, I believe, from Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm sorry, I'm not spending 3.5 hours in the cinema. I will watch it. I'll get around to getting my free subscription to Apple TV just to watch it. Then last but not least, and my personal pick for who I think should win this award, is the High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm not pronouncing the actor's name because I'd butcher it. So, but he's definitely my pick. Can't wait to see who wins, boys. Thanks for having me. Bye.
We've gotten a couple hot takes on Oppenheimer tonight, my friend.
I know. It's definitely true. And that's okay, for sure.
Yep.
I agree, though. I think Ken isn't quite a villain in Barbie. He's just kind of...
He gets misguided about the halfway point, and And
Yeah.
I think what
He's more of what happens if you don't, if you just like let an incel run free. I mean, that's kind of his thing.
So he's kind of personifying that idea. That can be the
Little
villainous
toxic.
aspect of it. Yeah, these are some pretty great villains that kind of are all over the scale here. See, it's funny. Everyone's got these hot takes on Oppenheimer, but I'm over here like, I know we've nominated it a handful of times, but I still maintain that Killers of the Flower Moon was not all that entertaining. It wasn't all that great. I thought like it just wasn't anything to me.
I'm glad you brought it up. I meant to, and I forgot in the earlier categories. I do think William King Hale as a character was quite evil in what he's trying to do and kill off these people for his own benefit. Maybe, arguably, one of the worst on the list. But I think that anytime Scorsese makes a movie, it's always going to be noteworthy. We love Scorsese, of course, but Killers of the Flower Moon, when I watched it, I felt like I understood the story and the characters and everywhere that it was going to go at about an hour and a half. And then I looked at how much time was left and I was like, dear God, this better have some twists. And it definitely did not. It was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I thought that may have been the most overrated.
I did, though, really like, and we may have snubbed, I thought that Leonardo DiCaprio's performance was one of his best in the sense that I always catches my attention when I don't see the actor and I can see the actual character more.
Yeah.
I felt like that was his best role of actually seeing the character more than seeing the performer. Him being that dim-witted person. He was much better, I thought, than most of the other actors out there. But we didn't nominate him, and it's not even the acting category. As far as villains go,
there's a standout for us.
John Kramer is more of a anti-hero. He's not that bad of a guy. There is a standout. It's pretty clear and pretty obvious. I think even worse than William King Hale killing Native Americans and trying to steal their money are the parents from the Iron Claw.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to kill off people that you don't even know and try to get something from them, but to really just fuck up your kids and let them die or kill them off, essentially, spoiler alert for the Iron Claw, and not get anything out of it, they're just the worst.
They have no remorse for the kind of mental abuse and trauma that they put their children through. They are just that was like, after I saw the Iron Claw, I know you saw it before me. I know when we talked about it, though, this was like a big part of the movie to me that I had to tell you, like, dude, these parents are like, to me, they are so evil on every level. They're so horrible. I can't believe they're real people. So the real parents, you know, fuck you. Holy crap. What's wrong with you?
And if you haven't seen the Iron Claw and don't know anything about the Von Erich family and haven't followed wrestling, there was another brother that they don't even show in the movie, and he also killed himself. They just thought it was too tragic to even put in the movie. It'd be too much to handle.
Too much, yeah. Those
real life was even worse.
Those parents are just, oh my God.
Yeah, and I think the trope is that, oh, of course, the dad is distant and he pushes the kids and all that stuff, and so you kind of aren't as hard on him. I agree with Steve. Like the mom, you like step in, do something. Like, what are you doing? And she never does, and it's just tragic.
They are just the worst.
Yeah. So there you go. Parents from the Iron Claw, your boner's in the mail. The opposite, the antithesis of best villain. What did we just do?
We did best villain. So now it's time to bring the other side in with the best hero.
And I'm not going to tell you who is presenting this because it's our first special guest. Ooh. We have at least two, maybe more special guests coming up. So here you go.
And now, ladies and gentlemen of movie boners, please welcome Batman.
Hey, it's Batman. It's weird that you got Bane, considering the stuff that happened a few years ago. But here I am, you're welcome. And today, I'm going to present the award for Best Hero in a movie of 2023. I mean, this is pretty awesome. Batman. Anyway, let me have a look. The nominees for Best Hero in a feature film are Alfred, I'm not in any of these films. This is bad shit.
That shit.
I'm clearly the best hero. I'm not doing this.
Well, this is more awkward than the time that I broke your back. Well, I don't know what to do now. You, get out there.
Hey everyone, it's James from I Was a Teenage Film Snob, podcaster and fan of movie boners. Unlike the 1992 Tim Burton classic, that Batman will not be returning. So instead, I've taken over the duties of reading out the nominations. So for this year's Movie Boners Awards, the nominations for Best Hero in a Feature Film for 2023 are The Kid from Saw X, John Wick from John Wick 4, Tim Ballard from Sound of Freedom, Dorich from Dungeons and Dragons, Miles Morales, Across the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Punk, also from Across the Spider-Verse.
That was fucking amazing. Fucking amazing.
I should tell everybody, Dustin hasn't seen any of this clip, so
No.
he's reacting with you live as he sees them. And yeah, James from I Was a Teenage Film Snob, he's incredible. He actually invited us on his podcast. We'll be over there probably not too long from now.
Oh, thank you, James. That was fantastic.
Just hearing you dying the whole time was hilarious. Yeah, so Carlos the Kid definitely stood out to me as an incredible hero who just basically befriends Jigsaw, and because Jigsaw was nice to him one time, is willing to suffer for him. Like, that is the most noble thing ever, potentially, for sure. And then some people would say John Wick's not really a hero because he is an assassin and he kills people for money, but I think he is a hero because he's mostly just wants his freedom and wants to get out, and he'll leave him alone if you leave him alone. It's self-defense for the most part, at least in John Wick 4. What did you have any thoughts on all of these nominees?
Well, I have yet to watch Saw X. I don't know why. I have the opportunity. I just, pulled a me and not watched it.
Yeah.
The John Wick as the best hero, I think that's something that you and I just automatically, we see Keanu Reeves and are like, hero. It's an action movie, hero. So
yeah,
he's on there. Although he's really not, to me, like a hero. That whole franchise is not about bad guys versus good guys. Everyone's a stone-hearted killer. So,
yeah.
But great heroes, you got Doric, you've got Miles, you got Spider-Punk, which was a super fun one to have on this list. I think that was a character that surprised people and became kind of a fan favorite without realizing it. I think what adds to the fandom of Spider-Punk is knowing that we're going to see more of him when they conclude the whole trilogy.
I'm just a fan of punks and punk music in general becoming.
He's a badass, and Miles is incredible. Miles is like, for an animated character, they've really made Miles such a relatable character, not just for kids watching the Spider-Man movies, but adults as well. So that Miles is fantastic. Tim Ballard is probably the most intense on this list because he's a real dude. The movie is about a real guy who actually did the things that he is depicted in the movie. And Jim Caviezel is very, very intense to watch as this character. So
yeah, it was actually one of the suggestions from followers that I didn't even have him on my radar. I wasn't thinking that vein. I was thinking of like, oh, action hero movie kind of vein. And then it came up. I was like, oh yeah, that definitely should be nominated. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
And then I saw The Covenant after making this nominees and kind of locking them in. And I was like, Ahmed, the character from that movie, I don't know if you've seen The Covenant or not.
Not yet.
But it's really good. And he kind of a snub maybe for us, could be a nominee for sure. He kind of goes above and beyond to save this guy's life for no real reason, at great risk to himself. And then just because he's a father, because of all this stuff, I really, really enjoyed it. So I would say that are our nominees for sure. And then as far as a winner goes, yeah, you're definitely right. Not only because he's a real guy who did real things, but I know some people say like, oh, it's fictionalized or the movie is not entirely accurate or whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, if you think of a great hero, and even if you make the effort and action that they've done larger than life, it should be that way, and it should inspire other people to do that because of all of that stuff. And I think that's makes a great hero. It's just
literally
inspiring people to do the right thing.
Right. And he does possibly the most right thing. His whole life is dedicated to rescuing children from sex trafficking.
Yeah. Doesn't get better than that.
That's like that's it, folks. That's if you don't think that's heroic, maybe a hard look in a mirror is due. So
yeah, I think I especially liked, so watching the movie, of course, it's really, really good. Highly recommend it. And it's not at all as controversial as people say that it was this last year.
It should never have even been called controversial.
Yeah, it was pretty silly. But seeing him as like, at first he's like a government agent and he's working to stop this sex trafficking and all this stuff. Then just see the leaving the government agency and just kind of doing it yourself, going rogue, going off the reservation or whatever, hugely inspiring. And I think that it was a great pick for a best hero of the year.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
all right.
So the best visual effects, and for our best visual effects, we put a heavy emphasis on practical effects. There are definitely CGI in these movies, as there are in every movie that you see these days. But I think that because visual effects hold up so well decades later, we wanted to definitely highlight kind of those movies. And the artwork that goes into them, it takes a lot more man hours, often more expensive, and so people opt not to do practical effects. But I think there's a good reason to do it because it holds up so much over time. And to present the nominees for this, we have Perfect Popcorn, who is a incredible and hilarious dude, very cool on Instagram. His presentation is very special, though, so I will let you watch it.
Give it up for the other presenters and the other winners and the nominees. Everyone's a winner here at the Movie Boners Awards. Movie Boners Awards. Let's move on to another category, right? Let's see. We have Best Visual Effects. And the nominees are, drum roll please. Either we're having technical difficulties or we're in 2025, but
let's try that again.
For some reason, Madam Web is nominated. Let's scratch that off the list. Moving on. Okay, so we have our best visual effects. Sorry, Dakota Johnson. Not this year. Maybe not next year. Number 1, we have The Creator. A fantastic movie. Godzilla -1. A fantastic movie that I had the pleasure of seeing on the big screen, and I hope that you did too. Number 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Right before James Gunn takes a bomb and blows up DC, he did, a pretty good job with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So let's see how that does. It is a visually stunning film. And number 4, high on Scientology, we have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which since then has not had the same name. In fact, it's just Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Is there a part 2? Is there a part 3? Will Tom Cruise always be a Scientologist? Who knows? And number 5, a film that, as a Frenchman, I felt a little bit disappointed in the accuracy of the history, but we have Napoleon. That'll close out the nominees. Again, to recap, not Madam Web, The Creator, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and Napoleon. So, let's see. The winner is, drumroll please, The Creator. Ooh, what a fantastic film. And if you haven't seen that on the big screen, maybe go to Best Buy, try to negotiate a deal for the biggest 100-inch that you can find there. Bring it home, mount it on the wall, and just immerse yourself in the AI-filled world of The Creator. It's a fantastic movie. That would be my pick. Shout out to the rest of the nominees. And Madam Web, you're a good movie, but not enough to make it in the Movie Boners Award.
So, Perfect Popcorn gets a gold star for playing well with others, but gets a demerit, at least for one, for following instructions, because those are not our nominees at all. He got
but very funny regardless.
He got 2 out of our 7 correct. He added 3 others, which I don't even know where they came from. Napoleon, Mission Impossible, and The Creator. So they're actually Dungeons & Dragons, Evil Dead Rise, Five Nights at Freddy's for the animatronics mostly, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Last Voyage, Demeter, and Oppenheimer, which is wild that Oppenheimer is not actually nominated in the actual, like, Big Brother Awards, whatever you call it.
Well, that's because the quote-unquote pros don't view practical effects and the fact that there's not a single CGI shot in the entirety of that 3-hour film. They don't recognize it as visual. Nothing against the CGI in Guardians. Nothing against the CGI in Last Voyage. Last Voyage was a much better movie than I think anyone realized it was. It got completely forgotten about, which is kind of a bummer for me, because if you like vampires, if you like Dracula, that was a cool fucking movie. So go watch it, folks.
Yeah.
The practical effects, though, when it comes to like Evil Dead Rise, the makeup effects that they used on that for when the mom turns. As someone who Evil Dead is my all-time favorite horror film, to see the practical makeup come back, that's a nice like relief of, okay, we're getting back to, we're trying to get back to like what made that franchise so big, because the more they put emphasis on the CGI aspect of it, the less it is, the worse it is. I mean,
right.
Five Nights at Freddy's, those were real animatronics that they built and had to operate. That's cool. And it's a fun movie. Cool. I feel bad for the people that went to that movie expecting like a legit horror film or to be scared. Like, it's a fun movie about killer animatronics. It's like, just enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just for kids mostly. It's not hard art, but yeah, the animatronics was very impressive, I think. And then I especially liked Godzilla -1, particularly because it is like you expect the classic Godzilla Japanese Gojira style and cheesiness and all that stuff, but then you end up getting invested in this very serious war epic and the personal story that we talked about before. But they put a lot of effort into still having those shots, like the actual shots and movements and motion of the creature and stuff that are very obvious and direct callbacks to the old movies. Like they could have tried to make it as serious as possible, but they still directly referenced kind of the classics at the same time. And it didn't take me out of it at all. I loved it the whole time.
Well, and you really got to give -1 a lot of props. On the CGI side, because it's such a low budget film, and the CGI that was used on it looked 1,000 times better than like every big budget film that came out that heavily used CGI. It's flawless compared to all of them. So it kind of proved, I think this is probably why like the big wigs decided not to give it all the love it actually deserves, because it kind of proved you don't need a $200 million budget to get blown on shitty CGI to make a quality film. I think it just made them mad because their golden rule was kind of shot to hell.
Yeah, it's wild that it came out the same year as like The Flash, and The Flash looks like shit.
Oh, The Flash is just the worst CGI in a long time.
Yeah, and this is made for like a tenth of the budget. It's
right.
Okay, so our number one winner, though, overall, lots of difficult decisions made here. But I think for us, it had to come down to just the practicality and the overall completeness of Oppenheimer and the visual effects coordinator, Andrew Jackson. Incredible movie. And watching it, knowing that part of the marketing was that there's as practical, the most practical movie that Christopher Nolan's ever made. Like there's digital manipulation and effects and stuff, but it's mostly to like remove things that weren't period appropriate or things like that, color correction, make things look as good as possible, enhance explosions, enhance some things. But everything that they did for real.
Yeah,
and they did
and
it
in camera.
In a giant IMAX camera. And for me, sitting in the theater watching that, I was watching it and being like, wow, this is really cool. And then remembering that and be like, no, wait, they really made that explosion that flew down and moved to the dirt. And I was like, how'd you do that? I'm trying to figure out, how did you even make that? That's amazing. I can't even figure out how you did that. It's like magic to me. And it made me kind of love the magic of movies all over again.
Yeah. And I know I've told you several times now, and I'll probably always talk about it, but if you have an opportunity and have not yet to watch the making of, like, all the behind the scenes stuff on how they made Oppenheimer, do yourself a favor and do that, because it's absolutely mind blowing that there is zero CGI in the film. It is all in camera, real time. Like, it's amazing. Just incredible filmmaking, and the visual effects to be 100% practical in 2023 is incredible. So couldn't deny it. You just can't.
Nope, has to win. And it's a shame that nobody else is giving it attention. But here at the Movie Boners Awards, very official, very legit. That's what you get. So we're halfway through, and there was last week a separate ceremony, as often happens, that you weren't invited to, that we had a couple of extra special categories that we'll run through really quickly. The first was the best gunfight on horseback in the desert, which sounds very specific, but it did happen at least twice last year.
It happened twice.
I saw John Wick, and then I saw Mission Impossible, and I was like, wait a minute, they're having a gunfight on. So, overall, I think Mission Impossible did it better. They ended up winning, and and they get credit for that. The other one was the most normal movie, meaning which movie did not have some woke agenda that they tried to, slap us in the face with, because it is more and more distracting. And there was a good amount of movies. I think I really enjoyed how American Fiction did its story. It was very kind of anti-elitist, nonsense, and it did a good job. Old Dead's kind of hilarious that it even ended up on Netflix, and
just
that they
blatantly ripped into cancel culture and woke culture. Just thank you, Bill Burr.
Yeah, amazing they gave Bill Burr a whole movie to do. And then someone on Instagram nominated Plane, and I was like, you know what? It is just a dad-core kind of action movie, and I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the most defining of the year had to come down to Sound of Freedom, particularly because I used the where there's smoke, there's fire test, and meaning the movie that got the most backlash from the media and Hollywood and everybody, and must have rustled their jimmies, and thus must be a clear winner. And so, having seen Sound of Freedom, I can say it's not at all really religious. It's not right wing. It's not Trump related. It's not. It's a very. There's a guy, who is aware of the fact that in America and throughout the world, children are being trafficked and sold into slavery, and not just for sex trafficking, but significantly, seriously sex trafficking, and tries to stop it. And everybody on the planet should be supportive of that. And the fact that some people were very loudly against it kind of tells you everything you need to know about them. So I think Sound of Freedom for sure wins that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I would pay attention to the people that are very loudly opposing that movie for sure. And then another special category that you were not aware of or present for, we had the Kirk Lazarus Outstanding Achievement Award, who, if anybody's not aware, Kirk Lazarus is a 5-time Academy Award-winning actor and a huge testament to filmmaking and society in general. He showed up to present an award, and I think that it definitely went to the most deserving Emma Stone in Poor Things for her performance, the Simple Jack related performance in Poor Things. So I know you said you didn't want to give Poor Things a bunch of awards, but there you go. That is the thing about Poor Things. Like, it's at best, it's a mentally challenged person being taken advantage of. At worst, it's a child being taken advantage of. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So those are the special categories that didn't quite make it into the actual awards. The actual next award for the biggest thing in a movie in 2023 also has a very special and very famous presenter. I can't believe we got her. She's Academy Award winner. She's huge. So I'm going to actually just jump right into this.
Hello, I'm Anne Hathaway. I may look a little different, but hey, man, that's your prerogative. You're not allowed to tell me what you think of my body. Okay? The Movie Boners invited me, since I've got awards show experience, here to present in an award category in their inaugural Movie Boners Awards. And here to do that, I'll be presenting as Matt from the Matt and Mark Movie Show, a podcast that like 10 people listen to. Mark couldn't be here because he's like this. Okay, great. And the nominees for biggest thing in a movie are Godzilla from Godzilla -1. Big. Oh no, I should look this way. Big. The Dick Monster from Beau is Afraid. Dude. I also want to quickly state that there has been a Dick Monster previously in movies. People don't realize this if you don't watch trauma movies. Go watch Tromeo and Juliet. It was like the first Dick Monster on film. That Dick Monster crawled, so Ari Aster's Dick Monster could walk. You know what I mean? So respect. Not that big, but big. The Explosion in Oppenheimer. This one, your mileage may vary. It's pretty big. Pretty big. What's that guy think? Right on, brother. Next, the amount of pink in the movie Barbie. Dude, that's a lot. Is a lot of pink. You know what I mean? The playlist in The Killer. That is a big ass playlist. I'm not gonna lie. I like the Smiths. I'm sorry. I know it's controversial, but don't blame me. I'm Anne Hathaway. I'm not Matt from the Matt and Mark Movie Show. Don't take it out on me. Take it out on the Princess Diaries. And finally, Cillian Murphy's balls in the movie Oppenheimer. That's got my vote right there. They're giant. Gigantus would be my ranking. All right, guys, that's it for me here and the Matt and Mark Movie Show. Thank you again for inviting us on. And this is the part where I get to say, and the award goes to. Take it away, gentlemen.
So yeah, that was obviously Matt, and they're hilarious. Check out the Matt and Mark Movie Show. When people suggested on Instagram Murphy's balls, I thought they meant like Oppenheimer's balls. I was like, yeah, I was taking it very literally, or not literally. I was taking it figuratively. I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, to think that you might scorch the entire planet and kill all of humanity and still decide to set off this bomb takes a lot of cojones, takes a lot of gusto and hubris and all that stuff. And then I was like, the more people commented on it and talked about it, I was like, no, I think they really just mean the actor's balls in the show, like in the screen and the visuals. So take that for what you will. But yeah, he's definitely right. Those are the nominees. I think the most notable being Barbie, the fact that they caused an actual worldwide shortage of pink paint. That's significant.
That is significant.
And
the screenshot that he showed, the moment he showed it, I was like, oh, that doesn't really do the amount of pink justice in that movie because there's so much more.
yeah, constantly pink in that movie. And then, Oppenheimer explosion, probably not as big as people expected, but the fact that it's a real explosion, it's not atomic, and they did use force perspective, but it's a real explosion they made as big as possible.
It's still a big fucking explosion.
It's not CGI, like fully created, so that's a big deal for sure. But for us, for the winner for the biggest thing this year, it had to go to Godzilla. Dude, he's massive. He's massive in that movie.
So big. Like, every time he's around, your only thought is there is literally no way out of this situation. Like, you are completely fucked. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all that's going to happen. And then the atomic fire comes out and you're like, oh, it gets worse.
Yeah.
Cool.
yeah, like, this is bad enough. We're trying to rebuild our city after World War II, and there's a giant fucking monster. And like, oh no, he's turning blue. Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, he's absolutely gigantic. And watching this on the big screen, man, for everyone that missed out watching this on that size of the screen, you actually missed out because the scale of it was just... It would have been like watching the first Dune on like a little portable player, right? Or on your phone. You won't get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Not the
absolutely
same.
Incredible.
Yeah, completely agree. Well earned. Godzilla, if you're out there listening, your bonus in the mail. So we have two different categories for stunts and stunt work. We love stunts. Stunts are the most exciting part of movies, I think, and continues to be true. They don't get enough credit. So the outstanding single stunt sequence in a movie, meaning the most exciting single thing, very general category. But to present that, we have Liam and Rob from the Hey You Guys podcast. And as everybody, they're hilarious. So check this out.
Hey, I'm Liam. This is Rob. We are the Hey You Guys podcast, and welcome to the inaugural movie bonus. That's bonus with a Z, luckily. Awards and the category for outstanding single stunt sequence. Now, I don't know what any of the movies are, so this is all on you, Rob. You have to read this out, buddy.
I mean, you do need to come prepared to these kind of awards, but come on, Liam.
I literally just wrote that down. So yeah, I'm not prepared at all. I do apologize, guys.
Right, I'm going to read them out now. So we got one take from prison to train in Extraction 2. We got the overhead apartment sequence in John Wick 4.
Solid.
The motorbike base jump in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
You're not going to vote for that at all, you asshole.
Oh God, no, not happening. The stained glass ceiling scene in Equalizer 3. The wrestling montage in The Iron Claw,
which is awesome. Just watch that.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I haven't seen that myself yet. The brute fight in The Killer. I haven't got round to that one yet. So, and finally, the ambush in The Covenant. Now that's a Guy Ritchie film, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. I watched like half of it, and then for some odd reason we drifted away, and I just never went back to it. But I mean, for me, there are two standouts here, and I don't want to nudge people in a certain direction. But for me, it's either John Wick 4, although it's not the sequence I'd pick, and I know it's not the sequence you would pick. And in terms of just being an impressive stunt, Mission Impossible does stand out. Now I know you're not a Tom Cruise guy. God knows we know you're not a fucking Tom Cruise guy. But that stunt is still amazing. The only problem is he sets such a high bar that it's not the best Mission Impossible stunt. But I think we're both going to agree on this. It is John Wick 4. It's just not the John Wick 4 sequence they picked here.
No, I mean, none of this means anything unless you picked Scott Adkins as killer to be in. I mean, I'm a huge Scott Adkins fan anyway. So the fact that everyone nobody's throwing any shit. Well, no, sorry, everyone's throwing shade on him by not picking him. It's Scott Adkins as killer in
I
anything.
love that
he's
you're
done in
taking it
John
as like
Wick
a
4.
personal attack. They're throwing shade by not picking him. I mean, in fairness, John Wick 4 is like 17 hours long and has a million scenes to pick from, many of which would be perfectly suitable for this category. And I get why they've picked the top-down sequence. It is unique. Well, it's not that unique because it was clearly taken from like video games. But for me, it really is the Scott Adkins. And this isn't the Scott Adkins guy. Like when I was watching it, I didn't even know it was Scott Adkins. I was just like, who the fuck is this dude? It was the best sequence in the film. So I'm going to say we're picking John Wick 4 by default, even if we're not picking the sequence that's been chosen.
I mean, and this is not our choice, obviously, but it's definitely the write-in campaign, John Wick 4, killer's fight sequence. I'm sorry.
And we
it's
do
happening.
apologize. Like these guys at Movie Bonus, they very kindly asked us to do a category. I know we're doing is shitting on their category. So sorry, guys. But yeah, John Wick 4.
Enjoy the rest of the awards, guys, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Oh, amazing. You're not wrong. It was so hard to choose a sequence because John Wick 4 has like
so many
14 different specific set pieces, and it is incredible for sure. But I think the Covenant, a great movie. The Ambush is great. They're right about Mission Impossible. It's not the best Mission Impossible single set piece. I would say the Halo jump for me.
The Halo jump is pretty incredible. The bike jump is amazing. Like it is crazy that he did it, and he did it 6 times
in one day. Yeah,
in one day. The one.
Have you seen Extraction 2?
I have not watched it yet, so I know.
It's not actually one take, but they trick you into thinking it's one take. They film, and so as you're watching it,
the majority of one takes are. It's a trick,
and so they do a great job of tricking you. And from the prison extraction all the way to the train and all the different things that happen, the fight in the prison yard, people being on fire, stunt performers being on fire, and everything that happens in that whole sequence is just kinetic and intense, and you're completely invested. That was almost the pick for me.
See, the one on this list that I just kind of like, I know it was a big write-in for people, and maybe I just didn't, I don't know. But I was like, why is The Killer getting so many write-ins from people? As a David Fincher fan, like, I think that's his weakest movie. I did not like The Killer. I thought it was kind of lame. The brute fight, I was like, okay, it's okay.
It's a solid fight sequence for sure. I think I liked it a little more than you. I thought it was good, but certainly not his best. But I also, while I was watching it, I was like, I might like this more on another viewing. Like in the future, it may grow on me. I kind of had that inkling.
And that's probably most likely the case for me too. But to me, there's a clear winner. And sure, guys, you can argue that it's not this sequence. I was kind of shocked that we didn't have the stairway fight scene. That would almost be it. Like the next super contender.
The stairway stands out, I think, because it happens so many times, and Keanu Reeves does roll down the stairs so often. But there's so many. The actual Osaka hotel is amazing. There's so many different ones that are amazing. This one for me, though, because it was actually all in one take, because even though it's all overhead and you don't really see Keanu's face, he insisted on doing it in one take. And the fact that it's so long, if anybody screws up, they have to reset and do it all again. And as things are happening, there's a lot of different things that happen. People are flipping through the air. People are on fire. And as you're laying on the ground on fire, you have to wait until the camera is off of you until you can get up again.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so many different stunt performers doing intense things that it stood out for me. It's the scene that in the movie I was like, John Wick 4 is about as good as John Wick 2 and 3 and all these other ones. And then this scene came up and I was like, nope, it's better. This movie is better than the other ones.
The choreography on this whole sequence to me was just like I was already feeling very excited throughout the whole movie, but then this sequence came up, and this is the one part that I thought of you immediately, of like, Jake is gonna lose his shit during this sequence.
Cream my pants. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you did, figuratively.
You don't need to tell people.
Sure, I do.
Private.
But it is funny that the guys brought up like the Scott Adkins stuff, because Scott Adkins fans are diehard fans, and props to you guys. Like, nothing. I have nothing against Scott Adkins or anything like that. That fight,
he's
is
been
awesome.
toiling away in B movie action forever and doing an incredible job, not getting the recognition he deserves. So for him to kind of come up and get the praise he deserves, I fully appreciate it.
So
he deserves it.
He definitely gets props. That fight scene 100% needs to be mentioned and talked about, because it is a badass, very fun, very entertaining scene to watch. But
yeah,
this overhead sequence is just badass.
So separate from individual sequence, we have the best overall stunt coordination, full movie, full teams, full everything. And to present this, we have the great Sigmon Cinema, who I love. He's incredible on Instagram. He does a lot of different things, but in particular, he does Weapon Crush Wednesday, who I like. Guns, weapon nerd. I have, all kinds of gun related things. And I'm the kind of guy that is on IMDb almost as much as I'm on IMFDB, the Internet Movie Firearms database, where I'm like searching in this movie, what did this one guy use for half a second? So he gets it. And he's also like a fitness guy. He's super cool. So here's Sigmon Cinema.
Hey everybody, Sigmon here from Sigmon Cinema across all social media. And before I get to the nominees, I just wanted to say that one of my favorite things about especially action movies are the stunts. Despite the overabundance of CG in movies, we still do get plenty of practical stunts and effects that goes into our favorite movies that come out every year. So this category is near dear to me, being a fan of fight scenes and action scenes and practical explosions and whatnot. But anyway, let me stop babbling and get to the nominees. And here they are. John Wick, Chapter 4. Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1. Sisu. Extraction 2. Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, Silent Night, and last but definitely not least, The Covenant. And those are the nominees. Some great nominees. If you haven't seen these movies, I highly recommend every single one of them. Good luck to the movies, the nominees, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I think as far as action movies, there was, like I mentioned, like 8 different superhero movies.
We got a lot of action in 2023.
Action is kind of an overdone genre, but I think these ones stood out in particular overall. When you have John Woo, when you have John Wick inspired things set in Finland or whatever Sisu was, the a lot of huge movies for sure. Any standouts? Any ones that that didn't win that you want to highlight before we move on?
I mean, the stunts. You and I we're always going to preach stunts. We're always going to push for more people to watch stunts, especially in action films, whether it's superheroes or not. Like, if anything, watch the stunts. That's a dude actually crashing into stuff. We get excited about fun stunt work. There are a couple standouts on this list for me. Obviously, there's only it'll boil down to the one that I think most people would agree with, considering if you pay any attention to the prep work that they use as part of the marketing, the stunt coordination that goes into the making of these movies, it's like, it's incredible. The full team kind of aspect of it, and it just brings it all together. So this one probably won't surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, for this one, no surprise, John Wick 4 wins it, and stunt coordinators Stephen Dunleavy and Scott Rogers and yeah, it is a whole team: fight coordinators and
It is.
cinematographers and second unit directors and performers and all that stuff.
Yeah, and then you've got the
visual
cast, and then props to Keanu Reeves, he's an old man, but he's so insistent on doing as much as he can, or that they'll allow him to, especially with how he handles the weapons and the fight scenes and all that. It's just the stunts in this franchise are incredible.
I don't think people realize how many stunts are even in the like most benign movie you watch, like very simple driving, very simple, like, and even if there's not crashes, even if there's not explosions, there is still stunt work going on. But in John Wick, it's very obviously a lot of stunt work going on, and in like these 14 different set pieces that went on, and yeah, for Keanu Reeves to be so engrossed and appreciative of the stunt coordinators and stunt men and giving them gifts and things at the end of production and stuff. Like, he's definitely, I think, very good at it. And of course, the director of the movie, Chad Stahelski, came from a stunt performing background. He was a stunt man for so long, now directing movies. So I love all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so the award for biggest boner. I don't know how many people. I don't know how many people actually know the original definition of boner before it became a popular euphemism for an erection. It used to mean like a big mistake. Like there's an old like comic strips of Batman and Joker, and he's talking about, oh, my huge boner, and he's actually talking about like a big mistake that he made. That's an actual like definition of the movie. So this is our only negative category, I guess, unless you count all of the things that Poor Things won, which sucks. But the biggest boner is the biggest mistake that happened during the year. And we'll actually kind of give some context. And it's presented by Ben and Rob from Every Movie Ever. And they're hilarious. and you'll enjoy this, I'm sure.
Ben, we got to do the thing.
What thing?
The Dustin and Jake from Movie Boners asked us to read the award show category.
Fuck. Yeah.
Well, we've been trying to do it for weeks. Like I told them 4 weeks ago, they'd have it the next day.
What's
we have to get this done.
What's the category? What are we doing?
Well, I mean, we're never going to get this award, but we can at least present it.
Sure.
The biggest boner award.
We're doing the biggest boner.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
For biggest mistake. The biggest mistake. Biggest boner award for biggest mistake.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
As in the whole film is a mistake, or a mistake in a film, or
they've given context. It's actually quite deep. These are going to infuriate you.
All right, go on, hit me.
Okay, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning for its release date.
Okay,
that's fair.
That
is fair.
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh: Blood and Honey from Inception. Just generally terrible idea. Ghosted, whole production.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sound.
Poor Things. Grooming, posing as feminism.
Get in the fucking bin. Get in the bin.
Yeah.
Poor Things.
Yeah.
Grooming is feminism.
Yeah.
It's Frankenhooker for posh knobs.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Saltburn for shocking without any real meaning.
Commie bathwater was what we needed. Right? Murder on the dance floor was on its arse for years.
Sophia Ellis-Bextor needed that.
She needed the revival. And if Barry Keoghan's dick was going to do it, he was going to do it naked.
You never shout. Why are you shouting?
I'm very passionate about movie boners. All right.
Or Beau is Afraid, both figuratively and literally.
Yeah. No, I can fully appreciate that one. I hate that shit too, man. It's so shit. This one time I
Dustin
had a
and
dream.
Jake, thank you so much for asking us to be part of this.
Thanks,
It's been
buddies.
an absolute privilege.
Love you. We have to introduce ourselves and shit.
Every movie ever.
Did we get it?
I mean, we've run out of time. So.
They're just as professional as we are, Jake. Thank you, guys. That was awesome.
It's a thing of beauty. Yeah, you're not wrong. Although, I mean, I don't know if coming back bathwater is what we needed necessarily from Saltburn, but we got it for sure.
Yep, we did.
And I do appreciate how they said Beau is Afraid is shit because it is.
It really is. It's just
And that they got the dick monster, and also that was a bad movie. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, you have been a heavy advocate for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey not needing to exist.
Yeah, and dude, I fucking went and saw Dune Part 2, and they fucking played the trailer for the next Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey movie, and the whole theater just collectively groaned. The lady next to me was like, fuck those people.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, is it this year or next year that Tigger actually enters public domain? So they're able to add Tigger at some point.
I think Tigger is in the next Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
It's such a shame that that's what they want to do with it. But honestly, all of these, like, what were you fucking thinking, studios? Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I guess if you need to choose a worst, we've kind of alluded to the worst already, and that has to be Poor Things. It doesn't get worse than it's feeling like, I don't even know. We've already talked about it in Post Me Too and Post Everything. Just trying to champion a child being sexualized is not a good look, and encouraging it's not a good look.
Yeah, it's really terrible.
Pretty gross.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all we need to say about that. Fuck Poor Things. Moving on. So the best writing of the year. And the best writing, we were like, oh shoot, do we need to do like best screenplay? And then to properly do that, we need to read all the screenplays and actually figure out why it's good or better than the movies. And we're like, we're not doing that. Fuck that. So instead, we'll combine adapted and original screenplay and just do best writing. Whatever made it on screen from the writing perspective, the best writing in a movie, that's what we're going to focus on.
Yep.
And to present that, we have Eric from the A24 podcast. They hilariously are watching all of the movies that A24 has ever put out, and they rate them on a scale from A24 to F24, so a letter grade scale. And Eric, I think, did a pretty good job writing his presentation as well for a writing category. So check this out.
Hey, this is Eric Kiska from the A24 On the Rocks podcast, a fellow film review podcast in the same, shall I say, vein as the Movie Boners podcast. And I'm excited to share with you the nominees for the best writing category from the Movie Boners Academy for their first ever award show. These 8 movies contain screenplays that erected poetry in the heads of moviegoers this year. And here are those films. The first nominee is Godzilla Minus One, written by Akashi Yamazaki. The second nominee is Dream Scenario, written by Christopher Borgli. The third nominee is May December, written by Sammy Birch. The fourth nominee is Oppenheimer, written by Christopher Nolan. The fifth nominee is Talk to Me, written by Danny Filippo and Bill Heinzman. The sixth nominee is Tetris, written by Noah Pink. The seventh nominee is Past Lives, written by Celine Song. And the eighth nominee is American Fiction, written by Cord Jefferson. Good luck to those nominees, and sorry to those that got the shaft.
I like the euphemism.
I don't know.
Misms.
Yeah, I'm a pun fan. I'm a fan of puns, and I don't know how many. No other presenter had that many dick-related puns.
I appreciated all of those.
Erected.
Yep.
I love.
Yeah, those were good.
But for these movies, I really like the originality of Dream Scenario and Talk to Me. I thought they were brilliant. I have already talked about how much I loved how May December kind of did what it did, and American Fiction as well. I was especially impressed by Tetris, though. I watched Tetris, and I think underrated as hell for sure. In a year with a bunch of movies about the inception of products, I thought that Tetris was really, really good, and it's more so about the fall of communism than that it was about the actual game. It was really, really good. So I like Tetris a lot.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, the writing was fantastic. I think Past Lives was probably like the most human story that I watched. The writing on that was impeccable. Dream Scenario was so much fun and it was so unique. And I think the best thing about Dream Scenario was it never got caught up in having to solve anything going on. It was just letting the movie, the story itself, be the experience. And I thought that's what the strength of that writing really was. Godzilla Minus One was damn near perfect. Oppenheimer is damn near perfect. I think the one that took me off guard the most, though, was American Fiction. Before it actually came out, I hadn't really heard about it, and then my brother had told me about it, and we were actually supposed to see kind of an early screening of it, but didn't make it. And we had kind of heard, like, it's not supposed to be woke, but then you heard some quotes that made it seem like it was going to be super woke, and so that was kind of like, But watching it, just the way that it pokes fun at so many different aspects of current culture climate was fantastic. It makes fun of elitism, racism, all of that, stereotypes. It pokes fun at all of it just so brilliantly.
There's a lot of that like elitist wokeism that's like feels like they're helping. They're like, we're trying to help
right
like these black people, but then they end up like making it worse, and
making
if you
it
just
so much worse.
Just stop, just don't do any of that, it would be fine.
Yeah.
I always heard how great and hilarious American Fiction was, and it is. There's a lot of that, but I wasn't prepared at all for like the very serious, emotional family element of it, and there's a lot of that as well. And it's done really, really well, and I think different than most movies or what you would expect for the subject matter. So great overall.
Yeah.
But for us, the best writing of the year might not be a surprise. Came into this as huge Christopher Nolan fans, and Oppenheimer is just brilliant overall.
But not just that. In terms of the writing specifically, the screenplay is written in first person. Unlike you, Jake, I read it. In fact, it's sitting right behind me. Yeah.
Okay.
The screenplay is unreal.
Yeah.
When you dive into like Oppenheimer's head and you read this and every scene is from his perspective, it really does put a whole new weight of this whole story onto your shoulder. The writing was just incredible. So not just because the movie is absolutely amazing, but the writing is like, this was unlike a lot of screenplays that I've read, and I've read a decent amount. But yeah,
that's amazing. I did not know you did your homework, but I appreciate it very thoroughly.
Yeah,
I think Oppenheimer is definitely huge up there as some of the best movies of the year for us, and it's a movie I didn't see since July when I first saw it in the theater, and then tried to catch up over the last month and a half of all of the movies that are going to be nominated and watches almost all of them. I did watch almost all of these movies, and I didn't rewatch Oppenheimer until I was done. And I was like, I need to see all of these at least once, and then I did. And then I was like, okay, now let's rewatch Oppenheimer, see how it compares to all the ones that I just watched and how great they are. And I watched it and I was like, this fucking blows it all. Like, not just the first person, not all of that stuff, but the two different timelines, the fusion and fission and the black and white and the color and every single thing. Like, obviously I like Christopher Nolan and what he does, but I think Oppenheimer does all of that in such a huge way, even better than anything I would have ever expected for this biopic. It's incredible. So obvious winner there.
Yeah, not surprising.
And then next category, the most worthwhile theater experience. So every movie, it seems like, comes out and is like, you need to see this on the biggest screen possible.
Well,
and
part of the Cinemark's like marketing too. If you're watching this adventure on a screen this size, you need to watch it on the big screen as it's intended. And you're like, no shit. Yeah.
But for a lot of those, it doesn't matter too much, but there are some movies that's definitely true for. We love theaters. We don't want theaters to go under. We don't want theaters to close. The whole theater experience and the kind of communal experience of seeing things with other people and hearing their reactions, whether they're laughing or crying or whatever, that's a huge deal. So we want to highlight that for sure. And to present this category is the 88 Miles Per Hour podcast. They're kind of nostalgic as well, where they go back in time and revisit movies and TV and things from that they grew up with. But this presentation is something special, so enjoy this.
And now, to present the award for the most worthwhile theater experience, Krusty the Clown and Brooke Shields.
Well, here we are, the star of the Blue Lagoon, and me, the blue-haired goon. What the? That's terrible.
Movies have the power to make us laugh and to make us cry. Wouldn't you agree, Krusty?
First of all, my hair is green, not blue. I got nothing to work with here. Nothing. Well, at least I can take off this girdle. Oh, yeah.
The nominees for the most worthwhile theater experience are Super Mario Brothers, the movie. Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning.
Sentences.
Yes!
Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves.
First, you have to create a character. You roll your dice and find out what your ability scores are. What are those?
Oh, well, that tells you if you're strong or smart or how good you are with a weapon.
Hell yeah.
What are you, some super smart guy? Oh, I don't have a character. I'm the dungeon master. I control the game and act out all the characters you meet along the way.
And Daniel, watch out for him. He's sneaky.
Yeah, he thinks being the dungeon master gives him the license to mess with our heads.
Oh, I'm sorry. Perhaps I should let you encounter kittens and grandmas so as not to upset you.
John Wick, Chapter 4. Oppenheimer on IMAX. And finally, Godzilla -1.
Cross my fingers for me. Not gonna hurt come winter.
And the winner is...
Oh my god.
We're
kidding. That was special. That was so good.
I loved it. I love it particularly because the Freaks and Geeks scene,
For D&D, like
the scrawny little John Francis Daly, who goes on to be the actual director of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, when he was a tiny little kid playing D&D in that show, just brilliant on so many
that
levels.
was, oh my god, that was perfect. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, hilarious. Yeah, I think I don't even know how to follow that, honestly.
I know.
There are only a handful of movies that I have a toddler running around and I have a busy schedule like everybody does. So I only actually made it to the movies. I realized as I was putting this together, I only made it to the theater 3 times last year.
Oh my
I had to go for John Wick 4.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go for Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
and I had to go for Killers. No, not Killers. Sorry, I don't know where I saw that. I had to go for the Iron Claw. I went those 3 times, and don't regret it at all. Those are absolutely flawless movies. Didn't waste any money. It was perfect. And Oppenheimer and John Wick 4 are on this list. They're big reasons, I think, why the box office was so successful last year.
Unlike you, I made it to the theater almost every weekend last year. But that's kind of what I aim to do. It's my favorite place. It's like, that's my happy place. I love the theater. And I do go for that experience. And the experience, whether it's an incredible movie or with the audience or just the whole going on a busy night kind of thing. I love the energy in a theater. It's unique. It's fun. It's fantastic. And I don't think we have enough of it these days. And last year I had experiences that made me feel like a complete child again, which was incredible, where it's just so much fun and pure, and you can't stop smiling the whole time. That was a blast for me. And then there's other movies where it was like my eyes were just huge because what an incredible film, or the whole experience. I think we kind of, I guess it could be one that we snubbed technically if you're going for just experience itself, but we kind of have to still bring it up, is the actual Oppenheimer opening weekend, or the Barbieheimer opening weekend. I did go to that. Yeah. That theater was so full and so packed in the lobby, loud. It was, I know I talked about it on the show, where it was like, that reminded me of pre-internet, pre-cell phone in everyone's pocket kind of days, where everyone congregated on a Friday night at the theater just to enjoy the movies. What a blast. Yeah.
Yeah, the most unlikely double feature, but definitely the one that defines the whole year for sure. For us, though, I think overall it came down to the IMAX experience, and particularly Christopher Nolan's dedication to this more complicated, more expensive, more inconvenient format, because it presents the biggest screen possible. And I have really, really enjoyed seeing how he kind of plays with it early on, starts toying with it in The Dark Knight and Batman movies, and then introducing it more and more, and then it just kind of becomes, we're doing IMAX as much as possible. Like, as long as we can handle how loud the fucking camera is in this dialogue scene, we're using an IMAX camera. And it's paid off. Like, the fact that people are actually wanting to see a movie about some guy's historical life on an IMAX screen because it's such an intense experience, I think speaks volumes to it became, and the fact that this biopic became like almost $1 billion movie. People went to it because of the visuals and because of the choices in the format and the choices of the stuff. It became must-see theater experience more than pretty much anything else that year.
Yeah.
And so I think that reason, and I think going into the future, they've toyed with 3D, they've toyed with all this stuff, and it's never really mattered. But I think the dedication to IMAX, we're seeing it again with Dune Part 2 and Denis Villeneuve and all that stuff. People are dedicated to this format now, and it's because it provides something you can't get. You can get better sound at home than you have in the past. You can get better screens at home than you have in the past, but you'll never have an IMAX in your house.
Right. Yeah. Can't pass that one up. Can't deny it. It's just too good.
So, best musical score. We've done a top 10 musical score episode before. We love the music of movies, and it's always a very big deal. And so, then there were some bangers this year for sure, 100%. And for this, we have Ron from the Barrel Age Flicks podcast. There are a handful of alcohol-related podcasts on this list. I feel like I think of us as an alcohol-related podcast, even though it's not in the name. People probably think of us as a dick-related podcast, but because we open a beer at the beginning and try to relate it to the theme, we're in good company, I think, with alcohol. So here's the nominees.
How the hell are you? This is Ron from Barrel Age Flicks Podcast, the podcast where we review movies and also pair a drink with it and review the drink also. And we like just busting each other's balls and just having a fucking great time. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, just about anything. We also have a Patreon where you pay $5 a month and you can watch our full uncut shows in video form. We're an amazing fucking podcast. Please check us out. We also have a sister podcast to our show called Barrel Age Chicks, where you get the girls' perspective. Movie reviews and drink reviews, just like us. Check them out. So we had a request from the Movie Boners podcast to announce their inaugural Movie Boner Awards for top scores, which is actually something I talk about a lot on my podcast. I'm a fucking score whore and I love movie soundtracks. You can't listen to a movie without the fucking score. The score is what actually brings the emotions to the fucking movie. So these are the nominations. And the first one right here is my personal favorite, Oppenheimer from Ludwig Göransson. Beautiful, amazing score. I enjoyed every minute. I've seen that movie like 15 times. And I think the score fits with it. The fact is that Christopher Nolan always used Hans Zimmer. Now he's using him, but it almost fits like a Hans Zimmer score. Mm-hmm. But the second nomination is The Creator from Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is a great fucking score also. Then we got The Boy and the Heron from G-Kids, which I believe is Studio Ghibli. Number 4, Killers of the Flower Moon by Robbie Robertson, which is interesting because Martin Scorsese usually uses Howard Shore, but he went with Robbie Robertson and his score fit perfectly for the movie. Killers of the Flower Moon is an amazing watch. And then we got Godzilla -1 by Naokoi Sato, if I'm saying that name right. I haven't seen the movie, but I'm guessing it's a nice, powerful, epic score. And now we have Society of the Snow by Michael Giacchino. Now, he's done amazing scores. I love his score of Rogue One. I also thought his score for the Batman was really good. A lot of people are very skeptical about the Batman movie, but the score was really done well. Then we have The Zone of Interest by Micah Levi. And then the last one, which I'm a huge fan of Nine Inch Nails, and that's what these guys are from, The Killer, which is a David Fincher film by Trent Renner and Atticus Ross. They have done amazing films. They did great on The Social Network. They've done The Girl in the Dragon Tattoo. They've done so many great movies. These are amazing nominations. I wonder who's going to win.
So yeah, it's hard to choose one between that list. I was very impressed in particular by Society of the Snow, and I think we've both been fans of Michael Giacchino since Lost, and it is particularly the end of that movie gave me heavy Lost vibes.
Oh, nice.
At its like most intense points and most meaningful points. So if you like that, you'll like that movie for sure. Hans Zimmer's a staple, and they're all huge. They're all huge for sure.
Yeah, he wasn't kidding. He said he didn't see it, but the score in Godzilla really is. I mean, it's intense and it's super dramatic, and it really does feed the emotion. Normally during like high destructive scenes in kind of an action style film, the score is going to be kind of fast paced. It's going to be exciting, whereas Godzilla has moments where it's like devastating while you're watching an action sequence, and it's the emotion is there. I will never have anything bad to say about Hans Zimmer. I kind of wish his score would have been on a better movie than The Creator. I know I was pretty harsh on that movie when it came out, but don't trust AI. So it had to be said at one point. I don't really remember the score in Killers of the Flower Moon all that well. I remember it being pretty good, but it's a Scorsese film, so you expect everything to be pretty well done. But there really is just one very blatantly obvious winner to me, and I know it's to you as well. This dude, his style of writing music for Christopher Nolan, I know we noticed it immediately when we saw Tenet, his first movie with Nolan, and to hear that kind of same principle and same approach come out in Oppenheimer, but on such a deeper emotional level. Absolutely mind-blowing. This dude is like, he's probably going to be the next composer that I become just obsessed with, like I am with Hans Zimmer and Howard Shore and all the greats. But the score.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, and I've listened to the Oppenheimer score just by itself.
Yeah,
I don't know, a bunch of times since the movie came out in the last 6-7 months, and yeah, it stands up. And I think when you see it aligned with the visuals of the movie, it's just even more intense, and to the point that you remember it, it's burned in your brain, and then you're listening to the music by itself and you're reliving the movie in your mind because they're so closely connected. And I think that's the best test for a film score for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, next category. Unfortunately, Ludwig van Gorensen, or whatever his name is, Ludwig Gorensen, was not available to attend and receive his Boner Award.
Sorry.
We'll accept it on your behalf.
We got you, dude.
The best low budget movie, because so much of Hollywood is tending toward this unsustainable model of $250, $200, $300 million movies,
which is insane.
It's just ridiculous. And so there are so many good movies that are made for a low budget. This category is a little wonky because what low budget means, we didn't have like a dollar amount cap or anything like that. It's really more of just like what the actual relationship is between the actual amount they spent and what they actually delivered. So if the product of the movie seems like it should have cost a lot more than it actually was, then you'll make it into this category for sure. So our presenters are Nick and Ruth from the Movie Ruiners podcast, and as all of the other ones, they are great. So let's hear the nominees.
Welcome to the Movie Boners Awards. We are the Movie Ruiners.
Yes.
Not sure. I'm Nick. This is
I'm
Reed. Not sure what the difference between a movie boner and a movie ruiner is, but probably a couple inches.
Yeah, usually my boners ruin the movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Netflix and chill got away from you. We are presenting the category for best low budget movie. Did you watch any of these?
I watched most of them. I watched all of them that I could pronounce.
Yeah, the Skinamink or whatever.
I missed that one.
I just watched the trailers. Like Godzilla -1, I watched the trailer. I was like, you got -1 person watching this movie. Like, I don't give a shit about this. King Kong, so much better than Godzilla, in my opinion, has always been. I've never had any interest in Godzilla. So, like, the most I've ever watched of Godzilla would be the King Kong movies when it's like Kong versus Godzilla. And even those, I'm like, this sucks.
You didn't watch the Matthew Broderick one?
Yeah, I did, actually. Dude, I had it pretty hard.
Okay. But the promotion for that one, do you remember Taco Bell had like the Godzilla Cup? I remember like that was awesome. Yeah, I heard this movie was really good, but I hadn't seen it. It might win this award. I think it will because it has a lower budget. Like it's pretty impressive. Some of the special effects,
$106 million or something.
Yeah, and it on like a $15 million budget or something. So I think that's kind of who's going to win.
I had watched The Creator.
Yes. What do you think of that?
I wasn't sucked in, so nothing really seemed like it mattered to me. It just didn't really register much for me. It was a good take on AI, though.
It felt like AI made the movie. It felt like it was a movie. Like it felt like they were like, AI was like, we want to make a movie that shows that AI is actually peaceful and humans are pieces of shit and should die. A Good Person. Did you watch that one? I imagine that one had to be hard to cast. Like, who do we have any good people in Hollywood? Like, is Tom Hanks busy? Shit.
Oh, damn. We're 0 for 1. How do we make this?
I do think they left off Blackberry. I thought that was the biggest snub.
Yeah.
It was a very cheap, low budget movie, so it went under the radar. But I mean, it's hilarious, and I don't know, the whole story was just great.
Blackberry, now that you say that, is probably my winner. Glenn Howerton was amazing in it. I thought he was so good. Who's the other guy? I'm blanking on the other guy. He's from
Jay Baruchel.
Yeah. He's incredible in it too. He plays that neurotic guy so well. So that would be my winner. The movie I would like the most out of all these. What would your winner be out of this category?
It has to be between Talk to Me or A Good Person. I think those are my two that stood out to me the most.
I'm gonna let you do the pick because it's hard to pick when you have no
Okay,
I'm not picking
okay.
the creator, so your pick is, I guess, Talk to Me.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll say Talk to Me. I just thought it was pretty good for a really scary movie. There was just a lot there, a lot to good performances, some good camera work. It was created by these guys that came from YouTube too, so really low budget, and it was kind of surprising how good it was. Movie boners.
Yeah, thanks
that's
for having
what we
us.
think.
Thanks
Yes,
for letting us present this award. And I forgot my tagline.
Well, check us out at movieruiners.com or follow us on Instagram at Movie Ruiners, and follow us on YouTube. We got a lot of interviews with comedians on their favorite movies.
And I feel like we're one of the few presenters that aren't British.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was looking at it. It seemed like everyone, kind of had a little way cooler accent than we did.
Oh, damn.
So watch us, y'all.
Yeah. We reckon you'll have a great time.
Yeah, we're from across the pond.
Real hoedown.
It's true. Not British, not Australian. Some real down home gents.
It's true. Godzilla's way better than Kong, dude. Like, sorry.
I knew that was going to be rustling your jimmies when he said that.
But you're funny, and I appreciate the tuck shirt. So,
yeah, I know. We were talking about we need to find tuck shirts, and then really couldn't. We failed at doing that, so we had to dress up with actual ties like a bunch of dorks. But I definitely agree. I think the creator was, even though the movie wasn't great, and they're definitely right, it feels like it was written by AI as propaganda to make you like AI.
100%.
They're actually going to take over your mind. But it was impressive that they're like, let's keep the budget as low as possible and still do as many incredible things as we can. So I liked that was part of the marketing and actually made people care more than like, we spent so much money, let's make it as big as possible. And that doesn't really work out.
I never got around to watching Blackberry, but that's not the first time that I've heard people talk about how good that movie ended up being. So that's definitely on the radar to get watched. Talk to Me was a pretty big surprise. I have a lot of respect for that movie. It's one that over time, after thinking about it more and more, I think that movie deserves a lot more credit than it's already gotten, and it's gotten a lot, but it's a cool story. Leaves a lot.
Horror's kind of a niche that I feel like it's a little bit easier to make a movie that's $4.5 million, like Talk to Me was, and then blow up and make over $100 million. And I love that Talk to Me did. I think it was original and interesting and definitely refreshing. You never saw Skinamarink, though, did you?
No, I did not watch Skinamarink.
I watched it, and I'm not sure that I liked it. I don't think that I liked it for a while, but it also wouldn't leave my mind. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I might like this movie. And for a movie that was made on $15,000, well, 15,000 Canadian dollars, which are not real, and then made over 100 times that with a $2 million box office, a huge success. And it was mostly crowdfunded and all shot in the director's house. So it's very experimental, very weird, and most people will not like the movie. But I liked it more and more the more I thought about it. So I think it's definitely a success as far as low budget movies go for the year.
Yeah, that was one you had told me I probably should not watch it. So I've actually, I kind of took your advice and was like, okay, I'm just not going to watch it. But after having it nominated a couple times, and it's popped up a lot to be watched. So I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a little bit of curiosity. And then there's your voice being like, you'd probably not really like this one. You probably shouldn't watch this one. And I'm like, okay.
I might rescind that. I don't know if you specifically would like it. It's definitely close that you might not. I think general audiences, I would say most people will not like it at all. But I think you might. And I only say that because I'm surprised that I am starting to. And so if I'm starting to, it's possible you might start to.
Yeah, there's that shot. 100%. Yeah. Oh, crap. All right.
So let me know what you think when you get around to watching it, because you can't resist. But for the
Yep, yep.
winner in this category, there can only be one, like Highlander.
There can only be one. And
Godzilla minus one for only $15 million. The fact that it looks the way it does, the fact that it invested you the way it did, it's just flawless.
Yeah. And it's for what they achieved on this movie, which your first viewing, you would assume this is a multiple $100 million film. And even the director came out when asked about the budget, the 15 million, and he even laughed and was like, if that, like he was saying that might actually be generous of what you're saying we spent or what we were budgeted. For that final product to be what it is and to instantly connect with such a wide audience, where the American theater run had to be extended, and then they were like, oh, the demand is still there, so we're going to put the black and white version out again. That's pretty incredible. That's a huge feat to pull off. So, and the fact that it was not only low budget, but from a bunch of this filmmaker, writers, this whole team that big wig Hollywood would never even blink an eye at, and also part of the narrative of the movie became kind of a fuck you Hollywood and your big budget kind of stuff. So this is like the little guy versus, this is a David versus Goliath thing, and David's kind of winning. So had to be Godzilla. Had to be.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think the fact that there aren't that many foreign movies that become kind of big tent poles that people are excited to see in a theater. And yeah, you're definitely right to clamor and for audiences to be like, no, we need more showings of Godzilla minus one in the States because it's so huge and you need to bring it back. That is a testament for sure.
Yeah.
So that definitely wins. A huge, great movie, and so glad it's around. All right, we're coming up on it. We've got 3 more categories left. The 3 big ones, I would say, for the year. And Best Director overall is presented by Brian from the Reviewing History podcast, which is one of my personal favorites. And I think you'll see why when you see this. It's very much, if you've ever seen the intro to their show, it's kind of related. You'll know when you see it.
Hi, happy to be here. It's Brian Rupert from the Reviewing History podcast, and I'm here to announce the Best Director nominees. Directors, some of these movies are so long, I wish someone was there directing me to the bathroom, if you know what I mean. But thank you, Movie Boners, for letting me do this. And speaking of boners, how about that sex scene in Oppenheimer, right? It was about time someone put sex back in the movies. But directors are there to guide us and show us the way through movies. And I think these directors, all the nominees here today, have done that and guided us through their journeys and their movies in very spectacular ways. Our first nominee is Christopher Nolan with Oppenheimer. The second nominee is Takahashi Yamazaki, who did Godzilla Minus One. And he's the only director on this list to view Oppenheimer as a real-life horror story.
What is he?
Our second director on this list is Sean Durkin, who did The Iron Claw. And ironically, the Iron Claws are what Godzilla is going to have in the sequel to Godzilla Minus One. Our next nominee is Coral Jefferson. Coral Jefferson with American Fiction. Now, Coral Jefferson, it took him a long time to direct this one because, of course, he was at the bottom of the ocean for so long. The next nominee is Ben Affleck with Air. And obviously he knows a lot about air because there's a rumor that J-Lo's ass is 90% hot air. Or is the air the smell of the aroma from a sweet Dunkin' Donuts cup of coffee? The next nominee for Best Director is Todd Haynes, who directed May December. And that's ironic because that's about how long it took to get through some of these movies, from May to December. And our next nominee is Martin Scorsese with Killers of the Flower Moon. Scorsese, how about you Scorsese me to the nearest restroom, because that movie was long and I needed that. Seriously though, all the nominees did phenomenal work and the movies were great. And your Movie Boners hosts are here to take it away and give you guys the winners.
I love the groans.
Their intro is the best because it's like all green screen like that, and they're like running away from, like, they do reviews of like how historically accurate was this historical movie, and it's all like running through battle sequences in movies and stuff. It's hilarious. You'll check it out. But yeah, best directors. It's impossible to not talk about Scorsese and Nolan, and we probably snubbed Guy Ritchie. Honestly, I do think The Covenant was his best movie in a while.
Okay.
I really liked The Covenant, and I think Guy Ritchie did a great job with that, but not on the list. Snubbed for now. Sean Durkin and the Iron Claw. Like I mentioned, Iron Claw is the top 3 movie of the year for me.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben Affleck. I know you loved Air. I liked Air a lot, but I do think Ben Affleck is a phenomenal director, even a better director than actor, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I talked about Todd Haynes and May December. Like I mentioned, I threw May December shit all over the nominees when I saw that movie because I really, really liked everything he did with it. Very interesting, very clever, and we've praised Godzilla -1, but you can't have that many praises without a best director, and so Takashi Yamazaki is here as well.
Yeah, this list, there's only one that I didn't get around to watching, but the directing on all the others, absolutely incredible. Most of the others. You
really didn't like Killers of the Flower Moon.
I really didn't, and I've really thought about that, and I'm gonna rewatch it just to be like, was I just in a weird mood when I saw it? Because it's Scorsese.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a fan, but I really was just not a fan of that movie as a whole.
I am in the same boat. I'm not a fan of it either. I have praised Scorsese so much, particularly for his pacing. So many times it just moves flawlessly and quickly and all this stuff. And like I mentioned with Killers of the Flower Moon, I knew the whole story an hour and a half in, and I had 2 hours left to go. And I was like, I don't know if I can make it.
Yeah. Affleck with Air, that was a real early one because I saw that at like the very beginning of 2023 when it came out. And it just instantly struck me. It's a movie that I just kind of became obsessed with throughout the whole year. And I still think it might be one of Affleck's best directing jobs that he's ever done. It's absolutely incredible to me.
I love how it's organized and how it like focuses on the tenets that Nike was founded on, and but it doesn't tell you, but it's very obvious as you're watching it that it's the tenets that it's founded on. The company has fallen away from that. It's like, we are never on defense. We're always on offense. And then they're struggling so much that they're just doing the safest thing possible. And it's kind of those tenets that bring you back and actually make them succeed. So I thought the whole story was brilliantly done.
It's so it's brilliant how he ties it all together, how he shows you the story, how he lets it play out.
He's also the funniest character in that movie. Like, not a director moment, but for him to actually be in it and be like this pompous asshole. That's when he's like in the boardroom. He's like, I'm a very important guy that does very important things. What are you talking about?
Right.
Playing the CEO of Nike was so funny.
Yeah, I was very shocked by the Iron Claw. I think Sean Durkin, the way he handled telling that story and just the wrestling sequences and the emotional baggage that came with those particular matches for that family, great directing on that. Coral
Visually
Jefferson,
beautiful too. I feel like the
yeah,
cinematography was snubbed by us. It's so good.
it's so good. And American Fiction, to take that kind of movie where it's gonna poke fun at a lot of stuff that makes people uncomfortable, and like from the opening scene, that alone is going to be kind of a challenge, especially as a director, because your name is going to be synonymous with it. I think the way he handled it was fantastic. Instead of kind of playing things safe when he shouldn't, you could tell they leaned completely into the joke. They let it be uncomfortable. It needs to be what it needs to be. And I have a lot of respect for that. Obviously I absolutely adored Godzilla, but
yeah, if you didn't notice, there's one we're dancing around that we haven't talked about. And it should be no surprise that I hope, even though I don't care what the Oscars say, and they're a bunch of poopy heads, I hope that he finally does win an Oscar, because he's made so many incredible films. They're all bangers. He's the top director for me of all time, and he's the top one working today. And Oppenheimer is a magnum opus and incredible. And so he wins for us for sure, by far.
Yeah. And I'm sure there will be a collective eye roll or groan of like, oh, of course we're going to give it to Nolan. You're goddamn right. We're going to give this award to Nolan. The dude has brought film back. Like, his movies are exciting. They're engrossing. They're everything they need to be that he learned from making movies. They're just so good. They're so good.
Yeah. And not only is his direction of Oppenheimer the best of the year, but I think he's one of the best directors, particularly because, best for me in the fact that I love him so much, is particularly because he is entirely self-made. He didn't go to film school. He learned it all by doing it. He just went out and taught himself how to make movies, and he makes incredible movies like
incredible
Oppenheimer.
Stories.
And yeah, his entire filmography and everything that he's done, and I think that it's just perfect, and it has to be him.
It has to be him.
The fact I'm always partial to writers and directors who write their own movies, and he's done that as well. So it has to be Oppenheimer for sure.
Yep.
All right. The penultimate category has to be the best new old film, which is, for this last year, we have watched a handful of movies for the first time that we've never seen before and done them as an episode on the podcast. And so it's kind of a nice thing to go back and see this movie that we've never seen before and be like, oh, wow, this movie is actually incredible. More people need to talk about it, see it, all that stuff. And of course, we spoil it on the episode of that we do it for. But there's a handful of movies that we've seen and want to select, I guess, the best of the year. That's the goal of this category. Yeah. And presenting it, we have Lee from Spro and Lee Take on the Academy. I can't think of a more appropriate podcast out there, because they're basically go back to past Oscar shows, Oscar years, strip the actual winners that didn't deserve it, and review all of the other movies that came out that year and give the award to who actually did deserve it. And so,
okay. So you're saying that Saving Private Ryan won the Oscar in their eyes over Shakespeare in Love? Because
you're goddamn right they did.
Happened.
Yep, 100%. So here are the nominees for Best New Old.
Hello there, all you boners. This is Lee from Spro and Lee Take on the Academy, and I'm here to present the award for Best New Old Film from the podcast. You heard me. This category features movies Jake and Dustin finally got around to watching for the first time in 2023. And I'll tell you what, the older and more curmudgeonly I become, the more I prefer the cinema of decades past. And the video games. The soda was better, too. And the fucking fries at McDonald's used to be hand-cut, for Christ's sake. Anyway, the nominees are Seven Samurai, directed by the eternally influential Akira Kurosawa. Prince of Darkness, the second in American horror legend John Carpenter's self-proclaimed Apocalypse trilogy. Brazil, directed at the height of his powers by expat and Monty Python alum Terry Gilliam. Dune, directed by the inimitable David Lynch, who considers it the only real failure of his career. And finally, The Final Girls, a clever little horror comedy that seems to delight film nerds who discover it and offend everyone else.
Yeah, so that's our nominees. The Final Girl's a little bit of a cheat because we both have seen it, but we introduced other people to it in our guest appearance on the Beat Critics this last year. I don't know what inimitable means regarding David Lynch, but I know who David Lynch is, and so I'm going to make a lot of assumptions around that. And then all of these, I think, well, I almost said all these, but there are a lot of huge classics that I think we finally got around to seeing and loved immensely. Are there any that you really want to highlight as life-changing for this last year?
Well, Jake, you know me, and your choice of words are not lost on me because I think I use those exact words. Yeah, there's two that it came down to for me, and that was Prince of Darkness and Seven Samurai. Brazil is absolutely incredible. If you are a Terry Gilliam fan and you haven't seen Brazil, you need to do yourself a favor and watch it. If you're not a Terry Gilliam fan, you need to do yourself a favor and watch it. It's very relevant. It's very funny. It's very weird. And it's the proper kind of challenging.
Still applicable to 2024.
Yeah. Final Girls is hilarious. Yeah, that one's a little bit of a cheat, but it was such a joy to be able to introduce that movie to a couple people to Liz and Court. And their reaction to it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, I could probably shit on David Lynch and Dune a lot.
The episode just come out. People need to watch the Dune episode.
But you guys can listen to the episode about that movie, so enjoy that. But Prince of Darkness was such a masterpiece of horror, and I know you and I were both really taken off guard with that when it came to that movie. I think we may have snubbed another Carpenter film by not having The Fog on here, considering we're dedicating a whole annual celebration of that movie.
Fog Day.
Here on out. Yeah. But Prince of Darkness seemed to really get to you and I both on just the best levels, especially in terms of horror, sci-fi, drama. It's such a cool movie.
Yeah, couldn't believe that we hadn't seen it before. And watching all of his movies, it really stood out as maybe his most incredible movie.
It might be his masterpiece.
Even though
but you used the word life-changing. And Seven Samurai literally was that to me. I believe I called it like the most humbling movie I've ever watched. It is over 3 hours long. And when we did the episode about it, I think I ended up watching it like 3 or 4 times within the same week. I could not care less how long that movie is. I have been obsessed with that movie since we did that episode. It is absolutely incredible to me. This is like it really was life. Like it made me kind of look at a mirror. Absolutely incredible film.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I can't say that I've seen any of Akira Kurosawa stuff. I'd heard of how incredible he was, and I heard Seven Samurai was like the first action movie and hugely influential and all of this stuff. But watching it, I did not expect a movie from 1954 that I'd never heard of really to grab me as immediately as it did, and to get as invested in each individual character as much as I did. And so I think it's a huge recommend from both of us. If you've never seen Seven Samurai, go watch it. I've been watching Akira Kurosawa's other stuff since then. Like, oh my God, there's just been a gap in my my vision, and I need to remedy that as fast as possible. So
it's just
Seven Samurai highly deserves it.
What a beautiful, beautiful film. It's intense. It has some funny moments. It challenges you on every level there is as a person. And it's just every shot is basically like, this is how cinematography should be done. It's just
Artwork.
What a film. What an absolute film.
Yep. I loved it. All right. So
man.
Last category, the granddaddy, best movie of the year overall. And it's, of course, presented by our friend Martin from the Film versus Film podcast. It was weird asking all these presenters to pick a category. I didn't assign categories to anyone. I just kind of gave them a list and said, do whatever you want. And people avoided, well, they really liked the silly categories. So that filled up pretty quick. But people avoided the best director and best film like for a while. And then Martin, with his great big balls, finally stepped up and was like, I'm going to be bold and select the best film. And he does a great job with it. I know you in particular are going to like this.
Hello, folks and fans of the Movie Boners podcast. I'm truly honored to present the best film of 2023. As my pod is a versus podcast, the Film versus Film podcast, I will be comparing each nominee to Jake and Dustin's favorite film of all time. And that, of course, is Avatar. First up is Oppenheimer. I mean, does Oppenheimer look like a computer game? Hell fucking no. So Avatar clearly wins that one. Next up, we have Godzilla -1. I mean, does it have a black lion thingy with 6 legs? No, it doesn't. And I mean, Godzilla looks fucking ill in that film. I mean, did you see the atomic breath scenes? Just the poor thing. Poor thing. Avatar clearly wins that one. Next up, we have The Iron Claw. Incredible film. I mean, Zac Efron is ripped like a brick shit house. I mean, but is he blue and 9 feet tall? He is not. Avatar, an easy win for that masterpiece. Next up, we have Air, a good movie, but they couldn't even get Michael Jordan. Avatar got Sam Worthington. Just saying. Another easy win for Avatar. Next up, we have The Holdovers, featuring Paul Giamatti. I mean, does he rival Sam Worthington's Aussie tones as a blue person? Not even fucking close. Avatar wins again. This is looking pretty pathetic, to be honest. Next up, we have May, December, a great psychological drama. But does it have the psychological impact about life as a newfound blue person? Not even close. Not even close. Next up, we have Past Lives, a beautiful film, extremely emotional. Does it compare to the heartbreaking scene of a tree falling down? No. Avatar again.
This is the best ever.
Next up, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The animation is absolutely stunning and incredible in this film. Just a wonderous movie. But does it compare to the glow-in-the-dark world of a kid's bedroom? No, absolutely not. Another win for Avatar, I think. But close. Next up is American Fiction, an incredible film. Does this film compare to James Cameron's magnum opus that is Avatar, with a story that we've never seen before? Hell fucking no. That's all the nominees, people. Thank you for letting me do this. And now, after Jake and Dustin finish watching Avatar for the 567th time, the winner will be announced. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Dude, that is... Oh, Martin. What a great callback. Not like, oh man.
He knows us.
He knows us. He knows us. Oh, god damn.
Yeah. If you're not familiar, we don't generally like Avatar. I particularly liked the part where it's like the story that has never been told before.
Right.
It's been told about 100 times. Yeah, hilarious.
Oh my god.
So best movie of the year. Hard to choose one. Lots of great stuff. Hard to nominate just 8. But I think, like we said before, it all come down to a handful. I really liked Holdovers. For me, I realized something watching it though. For me personally, I love the style. I love the 70s. I love everything about it. But for me personally, I'm just not a huge like coming of age story fan. Like for someone to come of age and like learn how to grow up and start out as a piece of shit and get better, it was good. It was great. It was well done. But all those movies just don't grab me as much as other movies because everybody comes of age, and so there's just nothing new in there for me. Was my thing, but I've already talked about May December. I loved it. Air, I really liked Air, even though it wasn't my most underrated. Sorry, Oppenheimer, Past Lives. I did really like Past Lives. You said. I didn't bring it up on the other ones because we only nominated in a couple of categories. But you said you weren't sure I would like Past Lives.
I wasn't sure.
Or it wasn't like the movie, my kind of movie kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of right, but you're kind of not right. Because I do like romantic movies. I do like not unrequited love, but like not the right time kind of love, like La La Land and things like that. I liked Past Lives, and I like the story it told, and I like everything that it did. But for me, like I said, it comes down to Iron Claw, Godzilla -1, and Oppenheimer is the best movies of the year. And Iron Claw in particular is like, I can't even put into words how visually beautiful it was. Like, for me, a guy that doesn't like emotional movies and movies that'll make me cry and movies that make me cry in public in a theater, even though there's nobody there because I went at 10 a.m. But I'm snuck in 2 beers and I'm 2 beers deep and I'm sitting there with my legs up and I'm weeping. I'm openly weeping, not once but twice at this movie. And even though I knew I would like it because it's a wrestling movie and it's a good movie, but it's not even about wrestling. It's just about these brothers. The River Styx scene broke me, and the last scene, of course, broke me. And I will never forgive it, but I also want to watch it over and over because it's a great movie.
Yeah, May December was the only one that I didn't get around to watching on this list. All of these movies kind of took me off guard. The Holdovers, maybe I shouldn't say it took me off guard, but it brought me back to how much I love movies like Sideways and The Descendants, which is, they're both Alexander Payne. And I kind of realized, like, I think I'm a decent Alexander Payne fan. I like his movies because they're so calm.
Yeah.
They're very peaceful films. Even when there's chaos on the screen, ultimately they're very peaceful films. They're quiet. They feel real. There's a little bit of silliness thrown into it just to kind of ease some of the drama. But they're just pleasant films. And I really like that. I'm someone that feels having a little bit of balance, or a palate cleanser, as I like to call them, is a good thing. And so The Holdovers was like, oh, this is probably going to be one that is going to be on that returning list for me of just the nice quiet films. Past Lives took me off guard probably the most. I was not expecting that movie to be so honest and so relatable.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you would like it because it is heavy on the drama side of things and kind of the, there's no real conflict. Well, there is, but
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure. That's why I told you, like, I could see you kind of going both ways, but I'm not sure. Part of it's not really your thing, but you do like love stories where the timing is wrong. If anyone's listened to our show before, they know you like talking about a certain movie about timing.
Time Traveler's Wife?
That one and another one. If it's Rachel McAdams, you're there.
Oh, yeah. The Notebook, for sure. Huge Notebook fan.
Yeah. Air took me off guard. I think I've talked about, I mean, we've talked about all these movies so much. And this was a difficult one. Even Spider-Man Across the Universe or Across the Spider-Verse, that one I knew I was going to love, but it's such a deep and huge story.
Yeah.
That takes the hero's journey, and although it doesn't really do anything new with the hero's journey, it expands on it and gives you another perspective to it and new stakes. And it's always exciting when you see that in a film. But I'm predictable. We are predictable. We are obsessive fans, and we will die on this hill.
I tried so hard to not be, because I knew that would be.
I know.
And I want the Movie Boners Awards to be the most official and upstanding awards show that possibly could be above any sort of criticism. So I considered, I was like, am I just being a fanboy? And that's why I watched all of these movies and did not watch this movie until the very end and rewatched it. And I was like, no, obviously it's the best movie of the year.
And I did a similar thing. As when I was texting you, I shot you a text and was like, dude, I rewatched Oppenheimer and this movie is unreal to me. For those that criticize it for being long, kind of boring or whatever, like, I mean, that's your prerogative. That's cool. But this movie is genuinely a frightening film. I do side on things of this being kind of a modern, realistic horror. Like, this is true horror. And it all is stemmed from that very final line that's spoken in the film. This movie's just incredible, though. It's what it achieved. You can't deny, whether you're a fan of it or not. The fact that a 3-hour biopic that has zero action in it is all quantum physics, military jargon, and political thriller became one of the biggest movies of not just 2023, but like of the last 10 years. This movie is huge.
Yeah.
It brought in masses, and not just a lot of people, but there were families going to this movie so that their kids could learn some history, to see some history. And it's just incredible. It's so good.
Yeah. I think some people complain that it should show more of the devastation, more of the actual effects of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and all that stuff. I think it's a reasonable assumption for the movie to make that generally what happened and how terrible and devastating it was, and not just that the best case scenario for all of these men deciding to make this thing, the best case scenario is that there are hundreds of thousands of people burned and obliterated and killed. The worst case scenario is the entire planet is burned and obliterated and killed. So the stakes are exceedingly high, but the actual story and the actual development, and I think in particular the highlight of this man and his conflicting or complicated moral compass is very interesting. And I think it's told in a very interesting way. That's a very honest way, not really picking sides or saying that he should be upheld or not, or that he did the right thing or not. It's really up to the audience to decide. I think it's done in such a good way. For that reason, I think it's the most total film, the most visually and everything engulfing film, and morally and story wise, the most important film of the year. Well, I would say there's not as much risk of global nuclear annihilation from everyday life for all normal people to interact with as there is from maybe like Sound of Freedom. So Sound of Freedom is probably the most applicable, most important movie these days. But for a total scope and from the enjoyable aspect to the serious aspect, I think Oppenheimer's a total package. And I think its execution and everything was as flawless and incredible and an amazing experience as possible. So definitely the best movie of the year.
Incredible filmmaking. Incredible. That's
it.
Holy crap.
We made it. We did it in just over 3 hours. I'm very impressed that we didn't get too bloated, tried to move things along. Thank you for sticking it out. Thank you for listening to the episode. And thank you again to all of our presenters. Check them out. They're, as you know, by now, hilarious and incredible.
Yeah.
Follow them on Instagram like we do, and check out their podcasts and stuff because they're incredible. And we really appreciate they did not have to take all that time to make such entertaining things for our little show for no real reason, and they didn't get anything out of it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Y'all are hilarious and awesome. Much appreciated.
So that's it. Next episode, we're doing Coherence. So make sure you watch that. It's absolutely amazing and fun and terrifying and brilliant. Everybody complains about there being no originality and you're only seeing sequels and franchises. The Coherence from 2013 is a very original and very brilliant movie that you need to see. So we'll be spoiling the shit out of that next episode.
Much appreciated, everybody. You guys rock. Thanks for tuning in, sticking it out. Tell us, go ahead and give us your groans, give us your cheers and all that for the winners.
And who we snubbed. I'm sure that there are ones that you think didn't deserve it. We will still want to hear it. We are open to criticism, and I think we learned a lot. And next year's awards will be even better because we'll be thinking about it from now on, as opposed to thinking about it right before we do it. So
right.
Look forward to the second ever annual Movie Bonus Awards next year.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.